So if you haven't already, you can go ahead and just get yourself comfortable, whether you're sitting up or laying down. It's just whatever works for you. You can just begin to let your body relax. And maybe even the mind and emotions relax too after all the talk here and the announcements. I know a lot of energy's moving and things are going on, and anything else you may have in your own personal life. So just begin to draw your attention to the seat of the soul as you allow the body to relax, and you may naturally find your attention coming up to this place above the eyebrows, towards the top and the center of the head. And as you gather your attention here, just notice your loving and that which loving brings with it. You may feel that inner peace or stillness, a quiet relaxation, or maybe even a joy. And hopefully a level of freedom as the soul begins to move towards its greater liberation. For this meditation is truly about the soul's liberation from its entanglements in this physical creation as it begins to move into greater spiritual awakening and merging back into the spiritual realms and that oneness with God. And so as we gather our attention and our loving, just begin to look inwards now as well as upwards. And just be open to allow the spiritual vision to begin to perceive that inner movement of spirit. You may even notice the purple light or the golden white or other colors as they may show up, or even an inner radiant form of the spiritual teacher. So just watch and observe. And even if it's just dark, just allow your inner senses to expand so that it may come to know or feel and sense in some way that divine presence. Just invite it in and be open to receive, which I'm going to do right now. And you can just follow along or even add in your own words. So Lord God, just now, we just open and ask and invite your living, loving essence to come present in us and around us, stirring us into ever greater awareness and awakening of who we are and our oneness with you. And as we look to you, Lord, we ask that your grace go before us, laying out the pathway, the journey of our souls back into your loving heart, so that as we love you and allow you to love us, as we ever move towards you and into this oneness, we also ask for your assistance in the realizing and fulfilling any of those karmic lessons we have yet to fulfill, and to assist us in releasing and letting go of all that which is of the past and all that has been fulfilled and has served us to this point in our journey. And as always, we are grateful for your actions of grace and loving in this path of sound and light, as we joyfully participate and step forward, doing our parts as we ever move closer to you and into your very loving heart. So, Lord, as we go deeper into this meditation, we ask that you walk with us, guiding us and lifting us. And so now, just within yourself, look to that light and sound of God's loving as God leads the way through that inner radiant form of the Holy Spirit. Just allowing yourself to be enveloped and embraced fully in God's loving. And as you begin to love God with the fullness of your being, the fullness of your loving, your joy and your peace, as you walk as that child of God back into God's heart. And so, as you're ready, you can begin to chant or sing that sacred name of initiation if you've received that. Or you can chant or sing the Hugh or the Anahugh. And I'm going to chant it out loud 3 times, the Hugh, just to begin to put that action of the sound and the grace before us. You may join me if you wish, or just listen. So just take in a deep breath and we'll begin. Just go into the sound as you continue chanting now inwardly, allowing the sound to lift you as you merge into it, as it brings you back into God. And so we're going to go into time of silence now as we continue this journey inwardly. Just listening deep within, listening for that sound or voice of God. Whether you hear it as the hue being chanted to you, or an inner sound of music or nature. Just listen. Listen within. So you begin to awaken and perceive that still small voice as it speaks to each of us and calls us home. And so even as we come more aware of the physical body, we continue to stay open, listening deep within to that voice of spirit, continuing to be aware of the awakening of our soul and watching that inner light of loving. And once again, just inviting that Holy Spirit of God to fill you, to surround you, to lift you and to love you into that greater oneness with that beingness of God. So just opening to receive all that God has to share with you as you continue sharing your loving with God. Even as we become more present physically and are aware of our body and our surroundings, and even as we open our eyes, that we stay focused inwards and upwards, just looking to and living that loving essence of loving itself as who we are. You want me to start or you want to? You want me to start or would you like to?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, well, it's the real mixture of things going on with all the changes in the air. Here we have the holidays coming up, and definitely, I guess the summer of change is definitely now unfolding into the fall and winter of change. And I find myself at times, it's funny, in the past I used to really enjoy change and look forward to it. And now as I've gotten older, I kind of find myself at times not only having a hard time with it, but almost like this sense of fear, loss. It's funny because I was thinking about that in the Laugh workbook. I often talk about what are you trying to protect, defend, or control. And the second question right after that, though, is what are you afraid of losing? And that's one we don't often pay a lot of attention to, is that fear of loss. And I find that's been showing up a bit with all these changes going on, because it feels like I'm losing quite a few things. I've been so used to things the way they have been for decades now, for quite a while. And that sense of change and And there is some loss. I mean, some things are literally letting go and leaving. And so that sense of loss is definitely there. In the past, I used to be happy to let go of things because I also know it makes room for the new. And the new was like, oh, wow, I'm always looking forward to the new and what's next. And in some ways, that's still true. I just am not there yet. I'm still in the losing part. I've been losing this and losing that, loser. So I'm in the loser phase right now, and the feelings and thoughts that go with that. And it's just kind of strange because I find myself at times questioning, like, did I do something wrong? Did I mess something up? Or is this just, you know, my own personal process? And one thing I've learned over the years is to look at my own personal process. You know how the phrase is, don't take it personally? Well, we all take it personally. Whatever's going on, we all take personally, right? Well, I still go through that too. I look at my own personal process, and then I've learned to check things out and look around me to see what also is going on in the world around me and the people around me, and literally the world around me, things in the news, or let alone just close friends or family. And it starts to give me a better idea with a kind of a reflective feedback mechanism to see what's really more in my personal process and what's really kind of at large, or sometimes what I like to call a thing in the air. That thing in the air is what we all breathe, right? So it's something we're all experiencing. And this year seems to be definitely more of a bigger sense of that, a thing in the air that a lot of us seem to be breathing, and that sense of loss. And there may be some of that going around the world, obviously, with all we've gone through just worldwide with COVID and the things that have changed or the things we've lost, even if it's just lost contact with, and that we're searching for now what's next, that new way. And I find myself in the same place, like, gosh, what's next, God? It hasn't shown up yet, really. I mean, here we just laid out, our schedule for next year. So it's like, well, in a way you could say it showed up, like, well, here it is. We kind of laid out our, calendar of our events for next year. But again, that's just an idea going forward until the reality of it when we're in that moment and living it. Well, that's always a different thing than just putting out an idea or a plan of action, so to speak. And it's funny because I found myself in the past trying to always look forward to the future, to try to keep myself motivated, inspired, have goals, something out there to strive for, to reach for, to feel a sense of purpose or motivation, as I just said, or inspiration. And I've been finding myself growing tired of that. Lacking motivation, lacking inspiration. Part of it is like, I'm just too tired to deal with it anymore, right? What is that phrase old people do? I'm just too old for this. Well, I must be getting old then, because that's how I am feeling these days. I'm just too old for this. And for this is obviously change. Change happens, shift happens, things happen. And the hard part, though, it's been different for me this time around than I've experienced things in the past, because in the past, like I was saying, it's like I always had something to look forward to. I don't have that sense this time around, at least not yet. And so I find myself now more in this having to deal with and look at the weight of the situation, the loss going on. And I find myself going into like this deep pain or grieving, and find it hard to deal with. I mean, at times it feels like a sense of hopelessness. And obviously that's not fun. I haven't been enjoying it. I don't know who does enjoy it. And I don't know what to do with it at times. I mean, I'll sit here and try to do the LEF and do whatever and look at it all, and it's still there. So now what? And of course, then I always look up, right? Look up. Oh, there's the purple light. There's God. God first and God only. Look up. And I'll tell you what, that's the one thing I've not just learned to rely on, but that I count on now, is just always looking up to God. In the past, like I said, it seems like I've always had something to look forward to in the world. This time there's not that in the world. So it's like, well, what do I have to look forward to? Well, maybe it's time now just to look upwards rather than forwards. I mean, this is a pathway of inwards and upwards, right? That we've been talking about. Have I been listening to myself? Did you say anything about that? Yeah, that's where I find myself right now. Kind of in the, what is it, the story of Job? Feeling like that. It's quite a process. And, but what does one do? We go through our panic, our anxieties, our fears. I've gone through mine, still going through right now. It's kind of a sense of hopelessness, and at times like, I have no more energy. I don't want to do anything else. But then when I look at, well, what does really not doing anything else look like? What does that really look like? No, that doesn't work for me. I got to be doing something. But I may just not really know what that's going to look like in this moment. And I know that's something we all reach for, grasp for, is trying to have an idea, to say the least, to know what it looks like, something to move towards. Well, what is that? What are you trying to protect, defend, or control? So yeah, of course, there's that ego nature inside that wants to control my future, control my destiny, control how things are going to turn out. Because we all want it to look and turn out the way that's going to always feel good, or lift us up, or give us what we want that we think is going to make us happy, or at least, to hopefully prevent any more sadness or pain. That's the other flip side of it, right? Well, if I can't have happiness, hopefully at least I won't have more pain or sadness. And it's funny because that's often a struggle that I see going on in myself. And it's funny because as I find myself talking about it, of course, then I start hearing it from people around me. So it's like, okay, so that thing in the air. Well, yeah, that thing in the air we all breathe, called karma and called this physical creation, that there's something yet in that though. And so I find myself not only looking up to God as like, okay, there's no other resources, so to speak, other than to look to God, but also then in the looking to God, I go back to the main other thing you all have heard me say over the years: surrender. And boy, has that been part of my meditations recently, is even in the depths of despair, feeling hopeless, or feeling this, or feeling that, to literally just surrender to the process. Because I know, at least for me, when I have these different feelings or thoughts, I'm more of a feeler, so I got more of that feeling level that goes on, but this can be also through our thoughts, or the fantasies, the things we run in our imagination, or just our physical responses. So however it is you experience it, just look to that. And so as I look to these feelings and things inside of me, I've learned to just surrender. And that's often the scariest thing, when it's a really uncomfortable feeling, because it's like, wow, why would I want to surrender to hopelessness? Why would I want to surrender to like despair? Wouldn't it just get worse? Well, yeah, that's what we think. We're just somehow programmed to automatically think, or at least respond that way. It's like a gut instinct, right? Fight or flight, respond as a protective mechanism because of that fear of loss. So we'll go into what are we trying to protect, defend, and control to avoid that fear around losing something, whether it's losing ourselves or losing something dear to us that we're so attached to, because we have such a fear around loss, whatever it may be, or even losing certain feelings. Like I like the feeling of happiness and joy. I don't know about you. I don't like the feelings of sadness and hopelessness and despair. So I'm happy to try to get rid of those and forgive them and give them to God. But the other feelings of joy and happiness, it's like, yeah, give me more. I want to hang on and embrace those, right? So when we have the others, we're ever in reaction trying to push them away and make room for all those nice feelings. Again, or thoughts or imaginations, again, however you process yours. Mine's just more feelings, so I talk about feelings. But I find at times like I'm going through now, that no matter how much in the past I may have experienced or reacted or resisted or been able to control or protect or defend, that this time none of it seems to work. That there's a course set that is going to unfold come hell or high water. Doesn't matter. Usually hell and high water. It's like, it's going to happen no matter what. And this is definitely one of those situations. And so I'm finding myself just going deeper into the surrendering process. Well, yes, surrendering is letting go, but it's that true surrendering where I don't just say, well, I let go of the situation, I let go of the feelings, I let go of the circumstances. But letting go of my resistance and my reaction to all of that. This is something we need to look at and why I'm bringing this up today. We often look at the thing that we're dealing with, the thought, the feeling, the person, the situation, the circumstance, whatever that is we're dealing with outside of ourselves. Even our thoughts and feelings are actually outside of ourselves. They're not in the soul, they're outside of the soul in the energy fields around the soul that the soul's embodied, just like it's embodied through the physical body, it's embodied through the thought body, the feeling body. So we often look at those things. But yet there's something between those things and us, who we are. And that's where you've seen me, if you've watched me in other Q&As and confessions, counseling classes, all that. I always ask people, there's something deeper. What's beyond that? We got to look deeper. Because I found the deeper we go, it's not until we can hit that deeper thing do things really shift now. And we find ourselves released of, freed of whatever the struggle we've been going through with what we think is people, places, things out here, not realizing it's actually the internal struggle we have through our resistance, our reactions, those dynamics within our consciousness, dealing with these things. That's what stands between us and these outer things. But you see, this is the next step. When we can start to really look at not only our thoughts and feelings, actions and reactions, but even, I don't care if you call it attitudes or approaches, like I've tried to redefine attitude to approaches, how we look at, but our reaction, our resistance, whatever that is that's closer to us than even the thing we're in reaction with. We are in reaction with, right there. Oh, it's my reaction. It's not this thing, it's the reaction with that thing. Oh, it's my fear. It's not my fear about loss, it's my fear. It's not about what I'm losing. It's not about what I'm in reaction with. It's about the fear. It's about the resistance, the reaction. That's closer. So now we need to begin to look at that. So instead of saying, you know what? I forgive that person for what they did to me. Or I forgive myself for what I said to them. But what if it's rather, I forgive myself for reacting to the situation. I forgive myself for going into fear with losing whatever it is I'm losing. I forgive myself for even creating the fear. I forgive myself for creating this internal struggle. I forgive myself for reacting, resisting, and then taking action based upon that. So when we can go to that deeper place and forgive that, that's where we'll begin to see now the greater awakening of the soul. Because that is still standing between us and God, right? We've been out here and there's this thing standing between us and what? God, the God we are, the soul. So it is those inner dynamics that we need to begin to now go deeper into and look at and let go of that focus on all the outer reflections that are stimulating this that I'm speaking of today. Because that's what's standing between us and God. So as we can forgive ourselves for our fears, for our reactions, for our resistances, that's where we're going to find the greater freedom. I forgive myself for feeling hopeless. I forgive myself for reacting to feeling hopeless. I forgive myself for avoiding that feeling of hopelessness out of judgment and fear of whatever I may have a make-believe that means or what it'll do to me. That's a good one, right? What will it do to me? Will my life be over? Will now I live a life of devastation and despair ongoing? Will everything be lost? What will I have? What will be left of me? These innermost feelings and thoughts we have that we all avoid because of the fear, the darkness, the disturbance it causes in us. So we ever avoid it. Well, how do you think Lucifer is keeping the soul entrapped in this physical creation? That's what we do here in ILM, is start to pinpoint the traps, the tricks. And that's what I'm talking about today. Those very deep, deep, dark places inside of us that we fear, that we avoid, we're not even aware of, or when we begin to get a little awareness, the way it shakes and causes disturbance inside of us, that we go, ooh, and look away from that because we don't want to deal with it. It's so uncomfortable because it is so hopeless and fearful. And so on a reaction, we struggle within, but then we try to do all these other things, thinking we're actually dealing with it. But yet all we're doing is all these other things to actually avoid this deeper thing going on inside of us. So if you've been in ILM a while in doing your meditation, practicing the LAF and doing a lot of that inner work, but yet you find yourself in a place like I'm speaking of now, where somehow these things aren't moving. You feel stuck. It's not changing what you've been working on. That's why it's now, maybe don't work on these things, but rather let go and now come to now this deeper place of dealing more with those inner reactions and resistances and fears. Because those can be more formless. They hide in the dark, called the etheric realm, or at least the etheric level in each of the realms, the mind, emotions, imagination. It's hard to catch those because they're well hidden. But if we ever do the meditation looking to the inner light, well, that inner light begins to now flash onto those areas of darkness that we've been avoiding, to start to give us the awareness. Even if it's just a moment, it flashes, and we're like, ooh, what's that? I don't like that. That's uncomfortable. Am I doing my meditation wrong? I thought meditation is supposed to be all loving, light, and peace and joy. Why, in my meditation, I'm coming up against something that seems so desperate, despairing, disappointing, depressing? I must be going the wrong way. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I'm not doing this meditation right. Those are the questions we will literally run in ourselves and question our spiritual practice. Because when these disturbing things come up, they will cause within us the doubts, the fears, the confusions, the wonderings, where we do question ourselves, let alone the spiritual pathway we're on. But for those of us that are willing to truly look and ask the questions, what am I afraid of losing? Or really, what am I afraid of? Let me look now. Instead of resist or react, let me just look at that uncomfortableness and be with it. Surrender to it and see what happens. Because if it's truly the truth of what the spiritual teachers say, that the soul is eternal and cannot die, how else are we going to know until we put it to the test? If we ever fear that process of death, this darkness and disturbance, we will ever try to avoid waking up to that truth. So at some point, we are going to have to put it to the test and face the reality of what that is. And I don't even mean just physically dying. Yes, there'll be that day, obviously. We all have to now look at that, no avoiding it. But until that day, we've got all these opportunities to practice up until that day. Because every time there is something in our life that we are losing and we're afraid of losing it, that loss is a sense of death. And it can literally be a loss. I know we've had, just 2 weeks ago, I was at a memorial service at somebody's actual death. Got to speak and to share about that. And of course, there were plenty of tears, that sense of loss. But yet in that, there was acknowledgement of that loss. There were the tears, the grieving. But yet in that expression, and not avoiding it, and now looking at it firsthand and talking about it, it allowed the loving to come in. That vulnerability, not avoiding, allowed now. That's a surrender. When we become vulnerable and are willing to acknowledge and talk about something, we are surrendering now. And every time we do that, it allows God's loving and grace to come in, not only to the situation and circumstance, but to come into us and through us into it. So we are the ones who've got to be willing to be vulnerable, to surrender, to now open up and allow God's grace and loving to come in now, to really free us, to liberate us of the fears. Because that fear is what we associate with death and anything that goes with that. So take every opportunity that shows up, like I'm talking about today, whatever that is in your life, and see if you can practice what I'm saying now. And just open to it. Become vulnerable and acknowledge it. Allow yourself to have the tears, the upset, the grieving, the sadness, the sense of loss. To write it in your journal, to express it with others. When you do that, when you allow that loving, that truth, you hear me speak of communion in action, communication. When we learn how to truly communicate at these deeper levels, the action of communion takes place where we now begin to commune with the loving. Because we have prepared a place by opening and inviting it in through our actions. And so as we do our part, then God now can come present because we have created the space within ourselves for God to come present and to commune with us. And it is that communion that not only in meditation are we going for, but is that communion that we want to live every single moment, even through our physical life. So as we practice this on a daily basis, meditation is the best way because it's the most pinpointed focus, totally inside ourselves. But then we need to bring that and to live that right through our own thoughts and feelings, like I'm saying, and even into our outer expressions with whatever's going on with the situations around us. That takes a sense of awareness, right? If we ever need to be aware, but to take action so that this can take place. The more vulnerable we can become and surrender, even to the fear or the darkness, the more space it allows that light of God's loving to now enter the darkness. That's literally what I've been talking about this whole time. We've heard that phrase, let the light enter the darkness, right? Well, this is how we bring the light into the darkness consciously in our awareness. And then allowing, by doing this, that light of loving to liberate us from these fears in any other words we wish to describe what that is. So it's putting it into practice. So our daily meditation, our daily spiritual routine may start with meditation, but now we want to really see by practicing, like I'm sharing today, of how we can live now that action of meditation throughout our lives, throughout the day, throughout every moment. So I'm going to just take a moment and let everybody sit with that for two reasons. One, I want that to sink in. And so that you begin to look right now what's going on in your life and within inside of you. And number two, we seem to have a technical thing where there's a rigging or a buzzing going on that we're going to try to find out if we can handle that. So I'm going to pause for a minute. And as we do that, it'll be silent here, but please go inside and even close your eyes and do that as an inner meditation or inner work as we're sorting this out. Okay. So I hope you took the time there to just really go inside and to look at what I was speaking about. No coincidences. We got the sound and the technical thing handled. So hopefully you allowed the sound to handle the technical thing going on inside of yourself as well. Got to tie it in there somehow. So let me get back on that focus. So this is one of the keys of what I've really learned really since in the 90s. The first decade I was really learning and awakening on this pathway is that all those years I would try to avoid all the uncomfortable things. And you know, I try to use words like uncomfortable, discomfort to lessen the impact, because I know other people would call these words negativity, evil, badness, you know, all that type of stuff that just puts a whole nother level of darkness through the connotations. There's enough of that in the world. So even by helping to maybe lessen that impact, even by the words we choose, hopefully helps. But as you all know, I just use words to guide in a direction that I want to go. But I have found, and as you've heard us said, God is in all things, right? Well, that means God's even in the darkness and the disturbance, the uncomfortableness, whether you call it evil or negativity or anything. So if that's the case, why would we want to avoid these disturbances? Why would we want to avoid that negativity? Because if God is in there, wouldn't we want to actually connect with the God that is in there? Well, I found not only do I want to do that, but I found I need to do that. Because it is only in doing that is where I found my liberation. When I avoided it, I kept avoiding my liberation. When I allowed myself to surrender and go into these uncomfortable things, well, as I kept relaxing and opening and allowing myself to bring the loving in with me, you know, for my protection at the time, because in the old days I used to say spiritual protection as well. Well, yeah, well, what are you trying to protect, defend, or fear? Well, you protect yourself when you're afraid because you think something evil, negative can get you. Well, and here you know what I think about that and what I've learned about all that, that's just the illusion. So there's nothing to really get you, which is why we don't use the word protection. And I found that if we're willing to really just surrender to even the things we think we fear, because that's all it is a thought, and just open, be vulnerable and surrender. That in that is how we within ourselves give permission and now allow that divine spark of God that is in that fear to be revealed. And in that revelation is where now we begin to merge with the God within that. God gives all things life. But we also have to understand, we as the soul, as that extension of God, have given life to our fears through our thoughts, our feelings, actions, and reactions. So as we are actually surrendering to these things, and you guys have heard me say this in the past, we are allowing now that spark of loving that we have put into the fear to give it life to now return to us. Because it is that spark of life that we give, that essence of living, loving, that we as a soul made in God's image are, is that we allow that now. There's no choice but for that fear, that darkness to open. And as soon as it does, because we now have allowed and created that, it releases. And then all that is associated, the images, the thoughts, the feelings around the fear and the darkness, dissolves, literally just disappears, because it was an illusion and never real to begin with, other than that mental projection and imagery we gave it by putting life into it, by believing it, by feeding it with our feelings, our thoughts, our imaginations. And so as long as we respond to the image of darkness, fear, disturbance, and we're ever in reaction, struggle, resistance to it, Well, that keeps it alive. It magnetizes it. And all we're ever trying to do the whole time is literally go in there and get that divine spark we've placed in it to give it life. But when we don't realize the truth that we have given it life, and the spark of our own soul is in there, that when all we're doing is looking at the image, in other words, what I was saying earlier, the outer circumstances of the things we're afraid of losing, or what we're trying to protect, defend, and control, as long as we're dealing with all that, we're ever keeping that protected and hidden from us. It is a spark of our own loving that we've placed in there. So in other words, we're the ones responsible for prolonging our imprisonment through our fears and reactions, resistances, or if we choose to surrender, that it opens now. And now that can return to us, and all the images and everything will just dissolve. Because we now are willing to let go of all the images, the illusions, and stop reacting, resisting that. So that divine spark could now be freed from all of that and return to its creator, ourselves. That's what's actually going on through the storylines and the details I've been sharing today. That's what we're doing. So I hope in being detailed like I am, it helps to give the clarity and understanding that as each of us on this journey look within ourselves, that we can begin to see now what we need to do to free ourselves, let alone to let go of the reactions, the fears, the disturbances, and all of that we've been avoiding. This is the how. So we need to be given the how, that's called the spiritual teaching, and then we need to be empowered with the loving, that's called the initiation. Because it is the loving that empowers it all to even give us, I don't care if you call it the strength, the courage, the inspiration, the intuition, the awareness, the know-how, all of it, to be able to do this. It's wild because it's all within. Even though it seems like it's outer circumstances, and even hearing this now is outside of yourself, we're giving you information, we're sharing with you. That's the outer reflection to stir what's true within you. All you've got to do is look within yourself. Not just listen to the words that are being spoken, but to look within yourself to see what that is inside of you that the words are speaking of, so that you come to the understanding and the awareness within yourself. And then you are the one who is empowered now through the actions, what you do with this information. But greater than that, the loving that you allow to move within you, so that it's not information or thoughts or feelings, but truly a movement of that loving of the divine. Because that is really the greater truth that is unfolding and that we are awakening to here. And that's the real journey of the soul that we share of here. And so these are more keys, if you will, to that awakening or liberation. But it's up to each of us to obviously put those keys to use. As Jim did that talk a while ago, a key unused opens nothing. So here's another key or keys today for you to use if you wish to open something called yourself. Put it to use. And the beautiful thing is when you really do, and what that opens up, and when that loving starts to flood through, all the despair, the hopelessness, the fears, everything will literally just dissolve. And you will know the peace and the loving that is truly the divinity inside of you now awakening through all this. And then there's just gratitude in tears of joy now rather than tears of pain. And it's that joy, obviously, that is of the Spirit that we are seeking and wanting to experience and wanting to replace the pain with. Well, this is the way how. It may seem contradictory to actually move towards the very pain and fear rather than running the other way. But this is how it works spiritually. This world is wired backwards. This world points in the direction away from. Spirit points in the direction into, not away from. So we just simply need to pay attention. What direction are we going? Well, if you just heard me, hopefully it's into and up into as well. So I think I'm going to leave it at that for right now.
Okay.
That last little bit about saying gratitude is my little grateful message for Thanksgiving coming up. Because I know I'm very grateful when I release the fears and the hopelessness and the agony and whatever, and because I know that joy and that loving of Spirit is always in it all, behind it all, through it all. So that's my journey this holiday season. I've had enough of the summer of change. I'm ready now for to step into what's changed. Okay.
All righty. Well, first off, I want to say that was an excellent talk, and it really brought forward a lot of things that we can forget very easily as we're moving through the day and moving through all the noise of the day. And I'm grateful you brought all that up and kind of pinpointed some things. So this last week, actually, we're already into a new week now.
Keep talking about it.
Okay.
That was just a little bit. Oh, sorry.
Okay, we'll find out if that change helped or not. So earlier last week, I was heading out for an appointment that I had, and it was early morning, and I always try to leave earlier than most people would expect to leave for an appointment at a certain time, just because sometimes I drive a little bit slower or the traffic gets overwhelming. And so I just like to leave a little bit early and get there early, and I'll park, if anything, just to kind of regroup before I go into an appointment. So as I was driving this one particular day, I was running some things through my head, and all of a sudden I could feel the energy running me rather than me moving it to look at and to evaluate and see where I was going with certain things in my life. And as soon as it started running me, I also heard Spirit say, pull over, pull over. And so I looked around, and I'm on a busy street, and there's not much of a place to pull over, so I just keep driving for a little bit till I come to a parking lot for this medical center. And I pull in and go over to a quiet corner and pull over and stop. And I just close my eyes, and I go back inside to release, to let go of whatever that is that's running inside of me, that whatever is disturbing me. And I didn't care at the moment if I was going to be late for the appointment or not. This seemed to be a priority. And I always tried to put Spirit first. I always tried to put God first. And that's the priority of the moment. So I decided to listen to Spirit. I pulled over, and I just began to go inside. And as I started going inside, I felt and I saw all this energy trying to draw me back out, giving me thoughts, giving me feelings, giving me disturbances that it was running on me. And I sat there looking at that for a while. And it was kind of fascinating seeing all this energy pulling me in, calling me in, and my own soul calling me in. But I could also see on the other side of it this tug of war going on with the energy of the world outside, trying to hold on to me and keep me from going in. And I realized at that moment I had a choice. I had to make a choice. I had to make a choice whether to go and just keep going into the world and getting involved and having it pull me out, or I could choose to sit there and no matter what the disturbance was, no matter what it was that was trying to pull me out, to just sit quietly and let myself be drawn in. And I realized it was my soul was drawing me in. It wasn't pulling me in, but it was calling me in. It was drawing me in slowly, slowly, slowly. And at the same time, I could see as it was drawing me in, the outer darkness, the outer energy was having to let go because it couldn't hold on to me. That which was drawing me in was stronger than that which was outside. And that made me feel really wonderful in that moment to realize that God's love for me was stronger than anything that this world had to offer me or to put on me to call me out. But it had to be my choice as to where I was going to hold my focus and how I was going to take action. And that was like a light going on inside of me. And I knew this, I've known this all along throughout my life, and I've witnessed it. But this was another big aha moment where I realized, oh my God, I've been letting the world pull on me and pull me out and hold me in suspension in the world rather than letting myself just be inside, living with God. And that was really a wonderful moment because all of a sudden I realized I just needed to spend more time in meditation. I needed to spend more time in my inner focus. Even when I've meditated 2.5 hours a day, I still need to spend time with God inside all during the day as best I can and not let the world distract me, call me out, and get me caught up in it again. So all this last week, it was very interesting to watch. And if anything, it was interesting because I saw how the world energy, and I'm not going to call it negative, it's just the world energy kept trying to regroup and to retrap me into movement out and get caught up in the outer. And I found myself during the week getting very tired at times because of I didn't know what. I didn't know if it was something going on physically with me or nutritionally or my supplements or my medication. I just got exhausted about 3 times during the week where I just didn't want to move. I didn't want to do anything until on the third time I realized that what it was the negativity was still playing on me, still pulling on me, still trying to call me outward. And that tug of war between that which was the loving drawing me in to that quiet and that peace inside, and the outer energy calling me out into the noise and the disturbances, I realized that's where I was becoming tired. I felt exhausted. And it was because I was sort of caught in the middle country between these two energies. And I wasn't making a decision in those moments as to what I was going to be doing or how I was going to be focusing my energy or taking the time to really go inside and regroup once again. And so by letting myself be caught in between the two forces, I got exhausted just trying to maintain and to make my way through things. So now I have a new indicator that when I'm exhausted, I need to go inside. I need to sit down, let go of the world, and do just that. So when I pulled into the parking lot was quite empty. It was early, and the offices, I guess, hadn't opened yet. There was maybe 3 or 4 cars in this whole parking lot. So I set myself quiet, closed my eyes. The engine was running in the car, and I just didn't even give myself a time limit. I just said I was going to go inside, do this meditation, get focused, let go of the outer as much as I could, and really live more in the centeredness again. So I meditated, and I meditated for about 35, 40 minutes. And again, I didn't pay attention to the time, but about 35, 40 minutes into the action of meditation, I heard this rap, rap, rap on my door, on the window of the car. And I didn't move because I didn't know what it was, but I didn't want to break up my energy of my meditation. But then I heard it again. And I thought, okay. So I opened my eyes and I turned, and there was a man standing there. And he kind of spoke loudly so I could hear him. And he said, "Are you okay? Do you need help?" And I said, "No, no, I'm fine. I'm fine. I was just resting my eyes." And so he said, "Okay, well, I'm just glad you're okay." And he turned to walk away, and he turned back again. And he says, "By the way, Merry Christmas. Have a very Merry Christmas." And when he said that, it wasn't just words. There was a blessing in that he gave me that just moved me to my core, moved me to my peace. And I thought, oh my goodness, every time somebody has said, "Have a Merry Christmas," I look at it and I listen to it and I think, that's nice. I'm glad they do that. But then I started listening this week to people when they would say, "Happy Thanksgiving, have a Merry Christmas." And I realized that in those words, even if they don't have the energy put on it as a blessing, there's a blessing in that for each and every one of us. And it's just a matter of us to receive it, to allow that in, that greeting, that blessing, that whatever you would call it, let it in, because it carries with it a frequency of loving, of blessing, of gratitude, of joy. And it really did stir me very deeply. And I was just amazed. And I thought, oh my God, I want to say that all the time now to people, because it is such a blessing. And I think that what I have found over the last few days with that is that when I do say that, it actually is a blessing to me as well. So I'm learning how to share my blessings with people in a greater and greater way all the time. And so I just found that to be one of the most beneficial experiences I've had recently, in the sense of really awakening me to a greater understanding of who I am and how I want to live my life and where I'm putting my attention, and how to stay more focused and centered inside myself and not let the world pull on me so much, and how to live in that state of blessing and peace that is really there for all of us all the time, every moment. And we can bless ourselves. We can ask God to bless us. We can do all kinds of things that just allow more to come in, allow more to be present, and allow more to come up inside of us. That loving that is eternal inside of us, God loving God, that is something that is just wonderful to experience. And when he said that, that's what I felt move. It wasn't just his words, but I felt the God in him loving the God in me, blessing the God in me. And so I'm extending my blessings out to many, many people now, including all of you, wishing you and blessing you with a happy and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, happy, happy, happy. I just want all the blessings to be moving in me and through me and out to everyone, just as they move through me and in me when they are bestowed upon me. So allow yourself to look at all that and see just how you want to live in that flow of consciousness. Because being an initiate or someone who's doing meditation regularly, there's opportunity to wake up to things that we normally would never ever be aware of. And one of them is the blessings, the grace of God with us all the time. God is always with us, whether we are conscious of it or not, whether we're meditating, whether we are an initiate. God's loving, God's blessings are always with us. It's just how do we respond to it? Do we allow it in? Do we respond to it and take action to live more in that blessing? Or do we just go along with the way of the traffic, so to speak, of the world and keep focused more on the outer and trying to make it work and figure it out and go with the flow, so to speak? I say, if you're going to go with the flow, go with God's flow of loving rather than the noise and the batter of the outer. It's not the same. And it's harder following in the flow of the outer world because it takes us nowhere. It leaves us empty. And we keep wondering, what am I doing wrong? Where am I going? What is this all about? Why am I having to go through this? If you live in God's flow, if you live in God's presence, if you live in that loving, those questions kind of back off. That's just the fear of the world trying to call you into it. Excuse me, I got to get some water here. And you don't want to follow the fear. The Lord of this creation created this world out of fear. And he created it with fear. And he uses the fear to keep us trapped here, to keep us caught in this creation. And he needs to have us caught in this creation because we are the only thing that gives life energy to his creation. He himself can't even give life energy to it. He is a reflector. He's a reflection of God. He's a reflector of manifestation. And he needs us, the souls that have the living essence and the loving essence and the creative essence in us, to allow all of this to come into manifestation. We put our energy into it. We have followed it. We have created in it. We have manifested in it. And if we all leave now, in this very moment, just like that, if God called all the souls home, there would be nothing here. And the Lord of this creation knows that. And so he does everything he can to keep us caught up in the outer and doing in the outer and struggling in the outer. And he does that all through fear. Fear, fear, fear. We fear we're not loved. We're fear they're not going to receive our love. We are fearing about money. We're fearing about our health. We're fearing everything. Everything, everything, everything. And he knows that that is how he can control us and keep us caught up in the outer focus and the outer struggle. But if you let go of that fear little by little, just by going inside and meditating and holding your attention on God, like I always say, God first and God only, you begin to see that that fear drops away and it just melts away if you allow it. Now, when you open your eyes, it's there because you're in the outer world, more focused out here, and the fear and all is running rampant all through the world. And it's easy for us to get caught back up in our own fears because we haven't completed letting go. We haven't completed focusing inwardly and living from within all the time. So look at all this and see where you're fearful and how you handle fear. And how does the fear handle you? And how do you maybe want to do that differently now? Just like I pulled over in the parking lot because I listened to that voice in spirit that said, just pull over, pull over. And so I found a place and I pulled over following it, and it took me inside and it reconnected me into the loving inside of myself with God and God loving me. And in that 30, 40 minutes, whatever it was, I let go of the fear. I let the fear drop away. And I was at peace. And even when I heard the rapping on the door and I opened my eyes to look and see and handle that, I did not go into the fear or the disturbance that the world might have wanted to get me caught up in again. I just kept my focus on God, loving God. And when that blessing came in, I felt it rise up within me from the God within myself, giving me blessing, giving me a gift of loving. So it was just a great reminder last week. That was on Monday of last week, and that was a great reminder to me that put God first in all things again. And so that's what I've been working on this week. And I've also been working on not letting the outer control me and pull me and kind of disrupt the flow of my energy to where I'm exhausted. So take note of how you're living your life and where your focus is. And I try to keep focused in God, but the world is a great trap if you allow it to be. And it'll try to pull you all out and away from God if it can. So do what you can to just ever put God first. God first in this step, God first in this action, God first in this phone call, God first at work, God first at home, God first all the time. And do bestow your loving, your blessing on other people. Wish them a happy Thanksgiving. Wish them a Merry Christmas. Wish them a Happy New Year. Wish them a good afternoon. Wish them a good evening. Wish them a good weekend. However it might be done. I remember when I was running the health food stores as manager, I had people answer the phone and I would have them say, good morning. And then they would say their name and then they would say the name of the store. And that good morning began to bestow blessings on people and wake them up to something joyful for a moment. And I got a lot of comments on that after a while. So find a way to bring the good morning, the good blessings into your life by sharing them. When you give them away, they come back in prosperity. They prosper and grow inside of you and in your life, and you'll find them just everywhere you go. Blessings, blessings, blessings. So allow yourself to begin to experiment and see what that really means to you. I'm just sharing what happened to me and what it brought back in my memory and my knowing and awareness. And I'm living more and more of that since that experience Monday of last week. So I'm just a week into it, but it's been a pretty good, interesting week. I've seen the two sides of the coin, so to speak, in a wonderful way. So thank you. Short and sweet again, but it's good.
You have time to do another talk,
If it was there, I would do it, but I don't see one to come in.
I'll be patient.
Well, thank you. No, we'll go take a break and come back and start with question and answer.
Wow. We're early.
We are?
So, yeah, usually we reconvene around 4 o'clock, but at this rate, I guess about 3:45, 4, Kelsey, but give us 40 minutes. So Yeah, it's about 3 our time central. So we'll reconvene and start Q&A in 40 minutes from now at about 3:45. And
Okay.
so whatever that is in the time zone you're in, we'll go from there. So we'll look forward to seeing you all then, and have a nice break. See you in 40. Take 40.
Okay, so first Q&A.
Excellent.
Jim, Brian, and Kelsey, question for the masters. The question I'm asking today is a common one, but it seems important today, so I will revoice it for myself and perhaps for others who might benefit from your response. The question involves a short story and a Christian Bible quote, and if it gets too long, just have Kelsey skip to the end and read the last full sentence where the question is. It seems to me that being a generally kind and forgiving person, along with regular meditation, are the two most important parts of walking our spiritual path. The first one is something I think I have managed pretty well, but the regular meditation has been an unresolved challenge for many, many years. Short story. Years ago, I was in retreat with another spiritual group, and a student asked the teacher, "How do I make meditation important enough to actually do it every day?" The teacher looked a bit wary and after a moment or two said, "I don't know." Then the teacher paused, looked up for a second and said, "Well, maybe I do know. How much do you want to see God?" I've never forgotten that interaction, and I guess this really is the crux of the matter. If you want to see God, meditate. If you're okay with ongoing earthly existences, continue to focus on earthly things. Bible excerpt. The Apostle Paul is quoted as having said, "So I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh. For the flesh desires what is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit what is contrary to the flesh. They are in conflict with each other, so that you are not to do whatever you want. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law." Galatians 5:6-18, New International Version. I really, really want to do the right thing regarding daily meditation upon God's name, but I've repeatedly recommitted to this for many long years, and it is still not being done. The actual question I have is similar to what was asked by the student quoted above, in hopes that there's perhaps a longer, more practical answer. How do I, as an initiate of the path of sound and light, choose away from the pull of my lower self in succumbing to distractions and make meditation important enough to do regularly? Much love and light.
Well, that's a very good question. And the answer is inside of you. It isn't something that anybody can answer for you. You have to answer for yourself. But also in that, it's God is going to pull us home. God is already calling us home. And we've been following that by getting initiated, by having the names of God, and by following some of the ideas of how to live our lives as an initiate. But ultimately, God is the one who's pulling you home or calling you home. And that's why you even got initiated. It's God and your soul, which is a part of God, saying, now we're done here, let's go. And it pulled you into getting initiated. It pulled you into looking at doing the meditation, and it pulled you into an action more focused inward than outward. How long that takes for it to mature and come to fruition, I don't know. It's different for each and every one of us. But I think that if you can spend time every day in meditation, half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever, you will begin to be drawn more and more inward. It's on the regular basis of meditation that we build the foundation that we are going to stand on for the future. And so if you do that every day, half an hour a day, 45 minutes a day, or 2.5 hours a day, like is recommended, you're going to build a foundation much stronger and much more there for you than if you're just doing it haphazardly on Friday and then I wait till Wednesday and then, okay, well, we'll do it on Monday. And it's just haphazard that way. And you don't really have a chance to build a foundation that you would want to build. So if that's the case, give daily time to the daily meditation and allow that foundation to really begin to build. Now, you may not be aware of it building at first, but you will, in I think a pretty short time, begin to recognize that there's something more solid taking place in your life that is giving you a foundation and helping you to look at things maybe a little bit differently, approach things a little bit differently from a spiritual standpoint rather than the world, because you have that foundation now that you can stand on if you choose to. The world will not drop away, but we can rise above it. That's how I've always found it to be. The world is always going to be there knocking at the door, calling us outward, teasing us, tempting us, whatever. And it's just up to us to stand on that new foundation and stand in the strength of that foundation and keep going higher and higher. Eventually, you can get quite a ways above the calls of the world to where you hardly hear them, you hardly feel them. They're not really there all that much. But in the beginning, it can be a challenge. And it's just up to us and how we approach it. One, if you give into the way of the world for a while, don't judge it, love it, and look to see that it's an opportunity for you to learn and grow from that experience. And then approach it with that attitude. I'm going to learn what it is you have to teach me. I'm going to grow and become the greater spirit. I'm going to move into the greater loving. And you will if you approach it in that way. If you put judgment on this and that you participate in the world or get caught up in the world, then it's going to work against you. But if you can approach it with loving and looking to see what is there for you to learn and looking to see how you can live with it in peace, then you're going to find a whole different place of living, of being, of expressing than you ever have before. And if you'll read I think it was the last sentence of that Bible quote.
They are in conflict with each other, so that you are not to do whatever you want. But if you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the law.
And that's the whole key. When we enter into this creation, we are under the law the Lord of this creation. And that law has a lot to do with all reincarnations, all about getting caught up in the world and living the world fully and expressing everything in the world that we want to do. I mean, the law is the law. And as long as we are caught up in it, we are going to live caught up in it and trapped in it and living kind of in a prison, and we'll know it. But if we are initiated, we have the sacred name and we have the Holy Spirit anchored at the seat of the soul. With that, you are not a part of the law of this creation anymore. At the moment you receive the sacred name, you are taken out of the hands of the Lord of this creation, who has been controlling your existence for many, many lifetimes. You are taken out of the hands of the Lord of this creation and placed in the hands of the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit now directs you homeward, home to God, into spirit, and away from this creation. And once that exchange has taken place, you no longer live under the law, but you may be habitually thinking you do and still be caught up in it. That's why I'm saying if you meditate daily, you're going to find that that foundation that you're building will become the new place of rest, the new place of reference of your life, and not the world as it has been with the law upon you. You have anything?
For me, it was that first answer. To me, it's just the longing. I have found if there's not a deep enough longing, people aren't motivated.
Yeah.
And that's got to come from within. So like you said, so for me, it was very strong from the very beginning. I'd never had it up until then, but then when it happened, it was like the floodgates opened all at once. So until that happens, it's just going with what you have. But other than that, the other thing that I should say inspired or motivated me and that kept me going was reading and listening to talks.
No.
A lot of people just try to meditate on their own, and some do okay, but I find a lot of people just aren't inspired or motivated enough. And then the people that actually take to heart when I recommend or others recommend, well, why don't you start listening to talks at the beginning of your meditation? Like listen to one of our recorded talks or do a guided meditation and, to start one of your meditations. And I found that a lot easier. And then it's inspiring and it motivates me when I hear the information. It at the very least, it gets my curiosity going and desire to know and experience for myself what was spoken about. And the other thing is that I find when I listen to a talk or guided meditation or even read like one of the Island books, it draws me into that meditative space. And that way, when the talk is done, I'm already in a meditation. And then it's easy to just keep going with it. And that's why I listen to talks almost every day and recommend people do as part of their 2.5 hours. In the past, I know we tried to talk about, and other groups have tried to talk about, nope, just the meditation, all the talks, books, readings don't count. But I figure, why not make it count if you're not going to do the full 2.5 hours meditating? Why not throw that in there and let it count as part of it? It worked for me. It's like, well, what's it boiled down to? The right or wrong way to do it or what really works? And so I've always done it as part of my meditation, but my meditation is usually a 3 or 4 hour block of time. So if you don't count the first hour of listening to the talk, then I guess I'm still following 2.5 hours of meditation, but I'm usually, sleeping on the back end of it or out of body or something. So, but that's mainly it for me. It's just got to come from within, from the longing. If it's not there, one, you're not going to even be interested in the pathway, but if you are interested, there's something there. And then it's just a matter of feeding that. And the more you feed it, you're going to want to some degree, want to do the meditation just to help answer whatever it is you're seeking. But that's why I enjoy doing the reading and listening to the talks, because that helped feed me, but also give me an understanding and actually stir within me what I was seeking for if I didn't even realize what it was I was seeking for. Like when I started the pathway, I wasn't seeking God. That took a couple, 3 years before it was that. But for me in the beginning, it was just about having out-of-body experiences and psychic development. That's what inspired me in the beginning, not realizing I was on a journey home to God, until all of a sudden one day it just kind of became that, because I realized what was going on in my meditations, and somehow it just got flipped around where that became now my longing. And then it became about the whole thing of like, well, how bad do you want to see the face of God? But the first few years, that's not what it was for me. But after that, then it was. So no matter what we say, all the information we give, if there's not that inside, that longing or desire, then I don't really know what to say. Because to me, if it's not there, it's all, to me, it's saying that maybe it's not time yet. And I don't think you can muster a fake enthusiasm. It's got to be real. But to even know if it's real, you've got to somehow participate. Like when it woke up inside of me, I had to actively pursue it and participate. And the more I participated, the more it inspired and enthused me. So we have to take some kind of action in order for that. That's probably the biggest part. And if you're not going to do the meditation, then listen to the talks, or read the books about the pathway. And that's another one to be clear with. Don't just go read any books. It's got to be ones like an ILM or the Pathway of Sound and Light here, if that's the real focus you want to do. Okay.
Hi, Kelsey, Jim, and Brian. Thank you so much for all that you continue to give and do and be. My question is about meditating during periods of intense physical pain. I get severe migraines regularly, which involve all of body physical pain, nausea, vomiting, and brain fog, with particular pressure and sensitivity around my head. These can last for days, during which time making any kind of effort, including concentrating on anything, intensifies the pain. Even the subtle interval vibration created by the mantra hurts. Along with the physical pain comes internal resistance and a desperate internal quest to make it end. I find it almost impossible to surrender or even remember that this too shall pass. I have, of course, tried and continue to try a gazillion medical and alternative remedies. Do you have any recommendations on how to stay connected with God during these times? And what kind of meaning can I make from these experiences from a karmic perspective? With much loving and appreciation.
Well, one thing is you're connected. Whether you're aware of it or not, you're connected. If you're an initiate, the connection is there through those sacred names. If you're an initiate, that anchoring of the Holy Spirit inside of you has been completed, and you're living as an anchored soul in spirit. The action of the migraine headaches, there's a lot of different things that can be causing it. And it's all about the energies of the world that we're trying to break free of. I can speak of this very, very to the point because I experienced it myself from the age of 9 till the age of 18. I had migraines probably 3-4 times a week, missed a lot of school. I just laid in bed and tried to be still because I didn't know how else to handle the pain. And so I understand what it is you're going through in the conflict. And I know that during that time that I had the headaches, I couldn't really focus in the spirit or God so well, but I still knew God was there with me. And so, one, know that God is with you in all things, no matter what is happening in your life. You may not be aware of it, but God is still there and God is supporting you through it. And be aware that the migraine is a physical process, it's energetic, and it is something to look at and see if there is something there for you to learn. It may be as simple as learning how to take care of yourself better, or learning how to take care of yourself in a different manner. And it may be that there's some lesson that you're letting into your life so you can learn from it, called the migraine. So one thing I did when I was laying there in bed with the migraines is I would just speak to it and I would ask it, if you have something to teach me, let me know and teach me, but help me to learn so that I can get free of whatever this is that's on me right now. And otherwise, I would just love it. I would appreciate it. I would honor it the best you can, even though it's miserable, it's hard, it's difficult. Just love it all and let it work its way through. Mine did in 9 years. I don't know how long you've had this or how long this will go on for you, but I had it for 9, and then I found a solution that really helped. So, and I'll just share with you what the solution was. I had had an accident when I was 9 years old, and with that, it threw all my TMJ and everything off with my jaw, and it was a source of the headaches, the unaligned jaws and the pressure on my head from the accident. So the key was finding somebody who could help me to get free of that. But I mean, my dentist, nobody really understood all that at that time. That was way back when, in ancient times. And so, but I did at 18, I met a dentist who was working with people with TMJ problems and migraine headaches. And he corrected my bite and did some craniology and really helped get rid of the headaches. And I haven't really had a migraine since I was 18 years old when he did the treatments. So I don't know if you have a source, something like that causing the migraines, or if it's something hormonally, physically, nutritionally, or whatever else it could be. But approach it, study it, listen to it, because sometimes it'll talk to you. That's how I began to realize that it had to do with my jaw. And it might tell you what the source of the disturbance is, the out of alignment is in your body, and you can begin to follow after that. But otherwise, I would just say, love it, honor it the best you can, do the meditation the best you can, chant the sacred name when you can. And like I think I understood that sometimes the vibration actually causes you disturbance with the migraine. And if that's the case, then do it when it's not in a migraine so you can keep those names alive inside of you. But do the meditation the best you can and see what can be brought forward for you to maybe find a solution. You have anything?
Just a little bit. I know, I mean, to throw on top of that, sometimes it can even be allergies. I mean, you know, some people may just be allergic to cat hair or dog hair or
That's true.
pollens or dust or whatever. I mean, there can be all that environmental
Or
stuff.
a husband or a wife.
Yeah, there you go. Allergic to the human existence, you know. So yes, it's good to do other practical, which it sounds like this person's doing. The other part, though, just to address directly the question in regard to like the meditation or connecting with God, I was going to talk specifically, like Jim did, about remembering that you're never separate from God. You're not disconnected. On top of that, you know, in the meditation, we talk about there's a time to share your love with God and receive God's love for you. And whether you do it a minute or a few minutes or a whole hour loving God, and then you spend a minute, a few minutes, or a whole hour allowing God to love you, it's set back and forth. I look at it in times of pain like this, where you just can't focus on loving God. I look at this as a time for you to receive God's loving for you. In order to receive God's loving, no, we just have to relax and let go. So really there's nothing to do other than, if you can, hold your attention up here, of course, so that you receive God's loving, because if it's held down lower, you may not, in that focus, you may not, in a sense, allow the door to be open to receive it consciously. But if you can just kind of, I don't want to say look up, because I know even that can cause a pressure. So what I do in myself is, when my eyes are closed and I'm resting, I just subtly and gently have my awareness up here, not literally looking up, but just my awareness, and just literally be open and receptive. And even if it's like 3 days long, like you said you've gone through, if it's days on end, meditation's not about, specifically 2.5 hours or so many, minutes doing this and minutes doing that. It's about giving and receiving. So if it's for 3 days to be receptive, we'll spend 3 days receiving from God. And part of it is, I found, is a state of attitude that we hold in ourselves. And if we can just relax and be receptive, that alone is going to help the migraine pain. But if we're ever fighting and struggling with it, or trying to do the meditation, loving God, that causes a tension. And so I understand, you obviously understand that, having described that. That's why I'm trying to word it the way I am, to do whatever you can to let go of anything that causes tension. So don't try to do anything, rather just be open and receptive to allow God's loving to come in. That way you're not trying to do anything. So in other words, whatever you do inside of yourself in going into receptivity, anywhere you find yourself going into resistance, where that causes tension, be aware of that tension and then just relax it. A good technique I used to do before I learned this meditation, if you ever heard of progressive muscle relaxation, it's like a guided meditation where you go through your body and literally physically, tighten the muscle, relax, tighten the muscle, relax. And you literally will start and go through your whole body, tightening each muscle. Just like we might do a guided meditation where you say, see the light coming in through the top of your head and down through your torso or down through your arms. It's just like that, but while we're seeing the light come through, we're actually tightening the muscles and relaxing. So that way we're bringing now into the physical, a physiological response, and it's that tension and relaxing, letting go, that causes the relaxation and receptivity. And so that's one other possible technique, is to look at that progressive muscle relaxation type of meditation while you have the migraine. This is one that can support the action, and of course you could visualize the light, but again, if it causes tension, we're trying to let go of tension. But that's why tightening muscles, causing tension, and then letting go, it deals with it in a way that you start to train your body and your consciousness to let go of tension. And so not only does it help you on a conscious level, but even a subconscious level. You train the body on an unconscious level how to relax. And then that could really support the migraines, as well as just your overall learning how to be receptive to God's loving, just purely in a spiritual sense. I use, every now and then I talk about when I learned to meditate, where we talk about it like a spiritual exercise. I found that for the first hour or so, I had to solidly love God, love God, love God. In other words, that's where we're exerting ourselves. And I found the more I exerted myself, it would build the power of the name, chant the name, build the power, and it'd create a tension, of course. You're building this energy. And then at a certain point, usually around an hour mark, sometimes less, sometimes more, I would find okay, I've built the energy now I can let go. And then when I'd let go and relax, all that energy I built now cleared away and created a space now for all this loving to pour into me, or literally take me out of body. But I had to create that. It's just like physical exercise. We have to exert ourselves, but after you do the exertion, and then when you're done and you let go, that state of relaxation is the receptivity now, where literally not only our consciousness, but even the cells in our body are more receptive to absorb now whatever nutrition we feed it, whether it's physical or spiritual. So the body's, in a sense, a reflective mechanism that you can do spiritually as well, if you hear what I'm saying, how to work the two like that. So if you can experiment maybe with some of that information, you might find a way then to really create a greater state of relaxation physically that'll make it easier now for you spiritually to be receptive to get through this process. And then again, like Jim said, that's where, the karma, yes, there's always karmas. That everything in this world is karma, everything, the body's karma. So whatever is in the migraines, the karmic lessons, just by beginning to work with the tools and techniques, it begins to now open you up so that the lesson will start to be revealed. And then hopefully, like in Jim's case, as it gets learned and fulfilled, then the migraines will go away. But it takes all the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical process to work through, which obviously it sounds like you've already done a lot. But now maybe hopefully in our sharings, maybe give you a little something more to take another step with it. Because we'll just finish saying, I found the same thing when I've had bad headaches or I've had the flu or sick, where I was like, there's no way I can meditate. And it's just enough to just deal with the pain. This is what I do myself. I just literally try to focus on being receptive, or even trying to go to sleep, which is a state of receptivity, because we're receptive, we relax, and then that's the state where we rejuvenate. And that's what you're trying to create here. And you're receiving so you can rejuvenate. And I know it's hard to do when you're in that state with a migraine, but the more you can just rest, receive, relax, then it creates a space for it to happen, hopefully in a greater way. But you have to take active responsibility in the process. Otherwise, you do just suffer it because the body's unconsciously just reacting. So the progressive relaxation type of stuff helps us to now take conscious control to direct ourselves to relax. And then it starts to shift because we're starting to empower ourselves and take power over the situation. And that's part of the learning in all this as well. So we're not the victim to it, in other words, that we learn how to empower ourselves through the process. Okay.
Dear Jim, Brian, and Kelsey, in this meditation, I am walking in a hallway, and on the right is a stone door. I want to walk by, as it seems there is no way to open it. There is no doorknob, and the stone is gigantic. I tell myself it is time to go in, and I need to get my courage up. I somehow will myself through it. I am in a darkly lit corridor, which is not at all intimidating and feels wonderful and so very spacious. Someone says, "You are in the frequency of jewels." As I keep walking, I see an open door at the end with light streaming through. The closer I get, it seems to be a blazing sun. I walk through the end door and go through the light. Someone says, "This is the land of eternal sunshine." This is the end of the meditation. Will you please explain this in loving gratefulness for all you do?
Do you want me to start, or you want?
No, go ahead.
One, that's really nice symbology of the journey through the part that I would describe of going through the dimly lit tunnel. That exists in every realm when we talk about the etheric realm and then going into the soul realm. So just like on the physical level, we have the seat of the soul, which is the soul level of the physical realm. Well, we have the same thing on the astral level. As you go through the level of the astral, you have the etheric and then the soul level of the astral realm. Then there's the soul level of the causal realm, and the soul level of the mental realm, the soul level of the etheric realm, and then the soul realm itself. So what you're describing there is entering into, going through the etheric realm and into the soul level of whichever realm that is that you're on. And if you've been walking this and you're moving into your real liberation, you're talking about the soul realm itself that you're going into in this experience. And if it's not that, then it's letting you know you are going into the soul level of one of those realms below that. And I'm not really clear which level that is. That's why I'm trying to explain it fully like this and just let it be what it is.
Yeah, it's really just becoming aware of how simple the awakening into soul can be. It's by what you're saying is going and walking through this light and into the sun, towards the sun. It's the greater sun, and the greater sun is our own soul. And the light of the greater sun is the light of the soul realm itself. So it's telling you that you're moving into more soul realm consciousness. It's just going to take some time maybe to unfold for you more fully, but it's an indicator that you've begun a real journey now in spirit. So whatever you're doing in meditation, whatever you're doing in working LAF or whatever, it's paying off. And so keep doing the inner and the outer work. No, that was all I was going to say.
You can keep talking.
No, I said that was all I was going to say. I didn't have anything else to say.
Okay. Yeah. Can you read again that part of it where she talked about coming through into, and what was said, the eternal sunshine or something?
So at first, someone says, you are in the frequency of jewels.
Yeah.
As I keep walking, I see an open door at the end with light streaming through. The closer I get to it, it seems to be a blazing sun. I walk through the end door and go through the light. Someone says, this is the land of eternal sunshine.
Yeah. Nice. Well, Jim really described it.
Yeah, that's the soul realm.
Definitely the soul realm. But I wanted to explain that for all the other levels too, because I know like sometimes we want to be at the soul realm and we got to realize it's a journey through the soul level of each realm, but this one's definitely a soul realm.
Yeah, the eternal light.
Yeah. So I'll kind of say that as a void. I hate sometimes directly saying that, but in this case, I do want to acknowledge that. So you're in a wonderful place, and obviously you're moving into the soul liberation now, and obviously keep going towards the greater sun that you saw in front of you or above you or wherever that is, but you definitely have entered the soul realm.
That's it.
Of the soul realm, not one of the lower realms. So that's celebration, obviously.
Very.
That's the end of part of the journey, because to get there, you've had to walk through, obviously, the major part of your karmas in the world. Obviously, they're not done until our last breath, but it's also the beginning of now the next stage of your journey. And that journey from that point forward is truly a tremendous, more joyful one, and definitely not as a hard one that it took to get there. That journey, there's no harder work at all once you go through the soul realm. It's just, I'm talking about where you're still in the world, your journey will actually be easier here, even in the world. Well, I say that, but it's more of an inner perspective.
Yeah,
because obviously we still have our challenges in this world, in this body. So, but congratulations and wonderful. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. And I'll say the soul realm is the most dynamic place that I've experienced. Even though going into the realms of spirit, it's just even a whole nother realm and that greater merging. But the soul realm with the individualized sparks of God. There's just such a dynamic creative action there that's just enlivening. I love it. But you're going to really enjoy the journey now from this point forward in much greater ways. Okay.
Good morning, Jim, Brian, and Kelsey. I love you. Thank you so much. A few days ago, I had a dream. Planetary, I guess the word is apocalyptic, but not as described in the Bible, just generally speaking. All the contingents were gone due to the flooding or sinking. There was a sense of disaster. I was with a group of people searching for land, with more of our group waiting for us to find it. We found a large floating island. There was relief, and it felt like a win. Not as desirable as a nice, stable continent, but better than nothing. But another group was already there and intended to defend it for themselves. A guard-type person questioned us, and it seemed wanted to take us to their leader. He commented on a couple people in our group, at least one very muscular, the other maybe with some other apparent strength, and how they could join up with them. When the muscular one punched him, maybe we intended to take ourselves to his leader to negotiate. In any case, this bit of a dream had a sense of comedy about it despite the overall happenings in the dream. That's the main part I remember. I forgot too much of other parts to even try. Meditation time. Love you, bye.
You want to go first?
I guess I can, unless you have something.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I've had a few apocalyptic experiences, and I found that those are often when inside of us we're going through great change and great transformation. So I would say don't give it too much energy, because it's easy to get wrapped up in these things if we really focus on them in our conscious mind and emotions. Just realize it's just part of a process, and I wouldn't be surprised if you're going through a bit of change in your life right now, because that often there can be an outer reflection, but again, sometimes it can be literally totally just the inner, and then the outer maybe not, because it helps stabilize us. So we can't always make that 100% reflective process that way. But those apocalyptic, that's so funny, experiences are really just about the greater transformation in that way. And it's also revealing to me some of the internal struggle and the unstableness. That's also an indicator that in transformation like this, as we're looking for something solid, like a continent or an island that's not floating, that's a process where we're in this transformation now, looking now, which is good, because we want to reach for, to look for something more solid, which is now finding spirit, to let spirit be solid rather than something in the world. So to me, this is showing you that you're in a transition or process of that search. And in that search, you're working through that part in the consciousness that is in struggle or fight or working on dominion with, as you came across these others on this floating island and the potential conflict there and who's going to be in control type of thing, let alone the island itself is floating and not solid. So both of those to me show you, one, the island floating is showing you that that's still part of the world because it's not solid, which spirit always is, a solidness or a consistency or sameness is a better way to really put it. And that struggle with the more muscular, who's gonna, the strength, like who's gonna be the most powerful, to me is what that symbolizes. And again, that's just to me the struggles, the competition, the battles that go on in this creation, in the mind, the emotions, imagination, and body. So to me, this is one of those transitory type of experiences. That's why I say don't give it much energy. It's just reflecting to you where you're going, what you're going through right now, and let it pass. And just keep reaching higher. Just keep on that sailing across the sea of life until you get to the solid island or the solid land on the other side of the soul realm, because that's really a lot of what you're doing. This is literally the journey of the soul now through, the mind, the emotions, and all that stuff across what literally is called the sea of life of this creation to end up in the land of soul, or known as the far country, or land of eternal sunshine, or whatever in that. So what else would you want to
That was a
add?
good explanation. No, that's real clear.
Okay.
Thank you.
Expectations. During Brian's sharing, I felt moved to share a tool that I have been using to help with surrendering in my daily life, as well as my meditations, that has been so liberating. The acronym RAIN. R, recognize the disturbance. A, allow it to be there. Acceptance and pause. I, investigate, forgiveness. And N, nurturing, loving. The other part of the investigate is looking at my expectations that may have brought up the disturbance and resistance to it. This is what I've found to be the key to most of my uncomfortable. I hope in sharing this that it helps others, loving to all.
Thank you. Cool. I like acronyms. That sounds like a really nice one.
Yeah.
And obviously a really constructive one to really support oneself, to work through the process. So that's good. I love it when somebody, finds a way to pull together all the pieces to make a process that really takes you through to get to, the other side, literally into that greater place of, freedom and loving and peace. So it's nice, and I love the creativity, the rain. I'm assuming the person who wrote it developed it themselves, their own, but if not, they got it from somewhere else. That's a good one, it sounds like.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Hey y'all, hoping you get this email as everything has been very quickly changing and totally messing up. And why should today be any different? Today my Wi-Fi doesn't want to play and I start losing connection during Kelsey's meditation. It is what it is, I guess. I'm trying to love everything that's pulling me, but really it's just pissing me off. I had 2 experiences. I was wondering if you could help me understand them, please. Experience 1. I was floating up and up into a mass of colors, beautiful colors, purples, blues, oranges, greens, even a little bit of red. The colors looked like droplets of ink that had been dropped into the water, that kind of effect. A figure started to appear in front of me. The figure was holding something, so I made my way towards the figure, and it was holding a board. On the board was written, "I'm depressed and I need to talk." Not picking up a great feeling from the energy, I stopped anyway. "Hello," I said. The person standing in front of me lowered the board and threw it to the side, and the biggest smile came over his face. It was a man, and he replied, "Oh, hey, how you doing? You want to talk to me?" I replied to him, "I thought you wanted to talk, that's why I stopped. That's what your board said." He kept smiling and said, "Do you know who I am?" "Not yet," I replied. So he started talking the biggest pile of crap about the world, how everything was falling apart in his life, the state of his health, finances, family, friends, etc. And I'm just standing there thinking, please shut up. I normally have all the patience in the world for other people, but not this guy. He's pissing me off. He stops mid-sentence and says, "Do you know me?" I reply, "I think I know who you represent, but I'm not sure." He carried on talking, and as he does, his energy gets worse. Tiny horns start forming on his head. The red color around him forms a cute devil tattoo on his chest, and beautiful, colorful wings start to appear behind him from the colors. Not feather wings, though, just big watercolor wings. He sees the look of confusion in my face, and he asks me a third time, "Do you know me? Do you know who I am?" I say, "Are you some reflection of Lucifer?" He laughs and sits down. He said, "Things were easier with me, weren't they?" I look at him and I realize that the wings that were behind him are still in the same place as they were after he sat down on the ground. They're just randomly floating in the air. Then I realize what they represent, and I say to him, "Let's be honest, things can't be that bad, because even Spirit is standing right behind you. Spirit had you this whole time." He smiles, an even bigger smile than before, and he says, "So you do know me." I look at him and say, "I am you." Then I wake up. Was I right? Am I him? Is this the reflection that y'all talk about, or some kind of reflection?
Yes, that is. That was a part of you that was showing itself to you so you understand yourself better, and even your attitudes and how you're approaching things. And so you can learn from that experience and begin to handle things in a different manner and realize that God is right there with you all the time, no matter what. Whatever's going on, however you're feeling or thinking or talking, God is right there in the midst of it all.
Are you seeing the person's Lucifer, though?
No, that's the person who dreamt it.
Those are my jokes, because we all have a little bit of Lucifer in us. It's called the ego. The ego's literally like a microcosmic reflection of that part of creation here in the world. Just as the soul is really that, reflection, I shouldn't say reflection, that made in the image of God, so is the ego made in the image of Lucifer in that way. So that's a wonderful thing, because part of when we come up, sometimes referred to as a cosmic mirror, and the level of the etheric, that we begin to see that reflections of ourself, but again, it can be many different levels of the self. And so when we see that reflection, that part of us that is in the world, that's a big step, because we've got to be able, it's like my talk today, we've got to be able to look at that and actually just surrender to it. And as we do, then the loving now can really come forward and through it all. Or at the very least, we'll set ourselves free from the reflection so that we can now go into the fullness of the loving. So that's a wonderful experience of really acknowledging and claiming the reflection, so that now you can really now be free to move as you recognize that Spirit was behind it all. And that's really the truth. So nice experience. Good storyline there. That's pretty cool.
The second experience is short. I was walking around and there were transparent looking black pyramids and otherworldly things, but they didn't look like real objects. I thought to myself, it looks like a charcoal drawing. I looked up at the dark blue sky and it looked like there was a storm coming. Then I realized I was under the water in the ocean and thought, well, obviously it can't rain underwater. Then there was a noise like a muffled harp being played. The ocean pulled apart into two and formed two big waves that were dark but full of light. They came crashing downwards like the ocean was collapsing in on itself. Everything clashed together, and it was just a white ocean bubble. Everything was so peaceful and still. Thanks so much. I love you all so much. What's the red ball thing? Is that a Thanksgiving turkey ornament? It's super cute, whatever it is.
It's a Christmas ornament.
It's actually
Pearl of great
a
price.
pearl of
Yes.
great price. The dragon's chasing the pearl of great price. There's the pearl of great price.
There's the dragon, and here's the pearl that it's
Yeah.
chasing.
So you want to share about the?
Do you want to?
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Oh, wow. And I'm going to interpret this as if it were me, because I'm not really sure exactly for the person writing this, but and I'll refer a little bit to the previous one as well, like when you mentioned it, you know, like the colors in the ink, like when you drop them in water. So obviously the element of water is a common element here through both experiences. And that water element, we often refer to this physical creation as a lake of reflection, as a lake. It's water, or the sea of life, or ocean of life. And that water is a reflection of the ocean of loving from spirit. So in this world, though, in that watery substance is where now, just like you mentioned as a reference, the ink dropped coming in, that's to me like now in this creation, when the different frequencies, which the colors represent, come into the physical creation, they may start a little more formless, and then as they sink down, they take on more form in those frequencies as comes into creation. So to me, in this other experience, you're starting to see different reflections of that, and even the charcoal like of the pyramids, to me, you're starting to see more of the illusion of it, where it's kind of like the black and white, where it's a higher frequency of where it's more, a little more ethereal before it takes on greater form. But as you're going up, obviously, that greater form gets more and more transparent and subtle in nature. So to me, that's part of the subtlety you're beginning to witness. And then to me, the two waves up there are showing you the polarity of the world. So you got two waves. So all this water now dividing like that is showing the two waves, the polarity. Like if you think of the story of Moses and crossing the Red Sea, that when the Red Sea separated, there was two walls of water. And then, you know, the Israelites had to walk through that onto the other side. Well, that's what we're doing. We're having to walk through these walls of water that represent the polarities of the world. So we get to the other side, which is the soul realm. And so to me, also seeing these waves that as they crash together, to me, that's showing you the polarities, like the negative and positive now crashing together, and where it causes chaos. This whole creation is based on chaos. And of course, that causes confusion, doubt, fear, and everything else. But once that crashes together, and in this case, now came quiet, to me, that's showing that you're beginning to now rise above the polarities of this creation. And as you rise up, it now starts, the waters become more still. Just like, you know, the whole story of the Sea of Galilee that was stormy, that the apostles were on the boat and Jesus was walking on the water, and then Jesus could calm the waters. Well, that's what happens when the soul rises above this creation that is stormy waters, that it starts to calm. So to me, it's showing that you're now recognizing all of that, and that you're beginning to rise above, so that the stormy waters of the waves crashing like that are starting to settle down, because you're beginning to rise above that and get free of the chaos and all that, the crashing waves and everything that can cause. And I hope I covered a lot of that, because I think
you
there
did.
might have been more in the beginning around the pyramid stuff or whatever. I'm just really more focused on the last part
Yeah, the last part is
with
more
the-
important. That's just
Yeah,
saying here you are in the physical,
there you go,
but
black
it's
and white
showing,
physical.
but here's where you are and moving forward.
Joe, what else would you like to add?
Well, no, that was pretty much it. I just don't want to. No need to focus down here when the person's already up here and moving forward.
Okay.
Dear Jim, Brian, and Kelsey, thank you for your ongoing loving support for us.
You're welcome.
This is a follow-up email, as Brian, you asked me to get back to you on how things are going.
Can you, before you go into it, I keep feeling this energy that feels incomplete around the email one or two ago with the RAIN acronym.
Okay.
I don't know what it is, but it keeps pulling on me. So I'm going to see if I can just kind of try to answer it. And I don't know if it almost feels like whoever wrote it might have a little expectation of something they wanted me to do with it. And I'm not sure what that is. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Let me see if I can talk to the energy a little more and see if it helps. I love acronyms. Like not only the LAF acronym, but I have an acronym I haven't shared in a while called Honesty, the Honesty acronym for honoring, openness, neutrality, enthusiasm, sincerity, trust in yourself. And I use it for different things at different times. And the RAIN acronym, I really enjoyed what the person wrote, and that I'm so happy it resonates with you and it works for you. And that's always the key. One of my other favorite acronyms is like what it didn't come for me, but Kelsey, the source of unconditional loving, SOUL, soul. I love that. God, that's like perfect, man. That's like a really good acronym. Obviously different than LAF or RAIN, but I love acronyms, whatever that is, especially when they're come from within, from spirit, because that's there for us individually to support us on our journey. And on our journey, we get the value, and it really does work for us and support us to move into greater freedom and joy and liberation. That's always the key, regardless of, it doesn't really matter what the acronym is or the ways and means, so to speak. What matters is that it works for the individual. But as individuals, of course, we're going to just share our own personal experience. And so I really honor and appreciate that. And I'm just glad to hear the story and the sharing in that. And I just want the person who shared it to know that I heard you and thank you for sharing. And I apologize if there was something more, if you expected me, since expectation was part of the words in there, if you expected me to do something more with it that maybe I didn't, that may you feel let down or disappointed that I didn't. If that is the case, please accept my apologies and I'll and just hopefully let it be okay in that way. And I appreciate again the sharing like that. To me, that's a fun, inspirational story for others to be creative, whether it's using the RAIN acronym themselves, or whether it inspires somebody to find their own acronyms or things that really move them inside, towards their greater freedom, just like we share our own acronyms here. So I just appreciate that, and I just want to answer to that, because it just feels like there's something in with that felt incomplete inside of me, and I'm finding it pulling and distracting me from focusing on the other, present sharings. Is there anything more you'd like to share on that, or?
No,
Okay. So when I hear RAIN, I think of cry. Because a lot of times when we're processing all the crying we do, sometimes we cry so much it's like it's raining. That's kind of what it brings up for me. It makes me laugh. I have my laugh acronym, but I have a cry acronym too. I don't talk about too much, but it's a fun one. Christ releases you. Cry. That's right. So as we awaken to the Christ, the soul inside of us, it releases us, and often it comes through a lot of tears or laughter. So we're going to cry and laugh our way to God. And sometimes it'll rain like crazy and all that. So I'm doing this for myself to hopefully, I hope that helps with the person who shared that. And if not, if it didn't answer it for you and you got something going on, write back in and let me know so I can speak to whatever that is, and we can get that complete. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay. Let's go ahead now with the next one.
Dear Jim, Brian, and Kelsey, thank you for your ongoing loving support for me and us. This is a follow-up email as Brian, you asked me to get back to you how things are going.
Good.
I've been doing the inner work around my relationship, and now we hit the wall on the fourth time, but this is one, sorry. But this one is kind of the same we had on the first and second time. So I decided it is time to move on, leave this person behind because clearly there is no progression on his end. Also, it feels I have learned everything from it already during these months. But here comes the challenge, and Brian, your whole talk today was for me, for this point of my life. I am deeply in fear to be alone, to be left behind, because I have a clear memory. I have an experience already where I died because I was left alone in a wheelchair. I tried to LAF it. I did meditation around it. I gave it up to God. Nothing really changed the fear. Even though at the end of that experience, I met with God, and from that point on, I have an awareness about God being in my life. Here's the left behind experience again. This time, I'm going to take the opportunity and get into it. Any other ideas I can do to move forward from this fear, because I do not want to go back anymore to this relationship. And this is the fear in me which stops me moving forward in my life. Thank you very much, in loving, and a big hug.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
Or do you want to do it first?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for writing back. First of all, that's great. I love to hear follow-ups like this, because that's life, isn't it, really? And good for you for, one, giving things a chance and doing what you can to keep moving forward. And at some point, if we don't see progress, something inside of us will know something is complete. And it's when we come to that point of inner knowing, even if we don't like it, we don't want it to be that way, but yet we know, that's the part we want to get to. That way it's not like, well, I don't like this, so I'm going to make the decision to walk away. That's not going to get us anywhere. That's just going to prolong things. But if we really put in the work, and through experience and process and living, we get to a point of completion and we honor that, that's always a good point now to let go and now take the next step and move beyond that. So it's great to hear you share that, and what you shared as your reference from the previous experiences that was helping you to realize that you're at that point, that now you could take it as far as you could with this relationship. But in order to keep going, you've got to be willing to let go now, and then trust that God will bring forward whatever relationship or ships, whether yourself or yourself and other or others, now can support you in that continuing journey into your liberation. So that's a wonderful part right there. I just want to acknowledge. Now, obviously, you bring up a very good dynamic within yourself that many people experience, and it's one of the biggest ones in this creation, is the fear of being alone. Because when the soul left the spiritual realms of oneness and came here, and the soul went into separation and automatically began to experience that fear of being alone and what that stirs inside of us. But if we can let that fear motivate us to do the inner work, to answer it or clear it, then it serves a wonderful purpose. Because that fear is also now a reverse way of saying the soul's longing to be back with God in the oneness. And that can motivate us then to do the work, to move into the oneness, to overcome the fear, or really to raise above the fear in this way. So the big one, and I know this is a lot of reason I know for so many why people will stay in relationships, even that are abusive, because of that fear of being alone, because they're afraid of, well, you know, what's going to come with being alone. And obviously you have one of the now inner knowings of what that is, and that fear of being around in a wheelchair by yourself. So at least you've got an image to work with, which is more than what most people get. Usually it's just an unconscious nothingness, but yet it scares people to death. So at least you've got something a little more tangible to work with, which is really wonderful, because that can empower you to a degree to begin to work with. And one of the things, just as you just acknowledged today, the talk I did today was really for you. Well, you're right, because the talk today now was showing you how you can take that fear of being alone, but even more specifically in the wheelchair, and now taking what was shared today and to specifically apply it to this fear of being alone and in the wheelchair. And allow yourself to go into it, because believe it or not, there's yet a deeper fear beyond the fear of being alone and the fear of being in a wheelchair like that. And that's where you want to go to. So if just seeing the image of the wheelchair and being alone scares you, that's the very thing you don't want to avoid. But now take the time to be present with it, to just be with it and relax into it, just surrender to it, and then see what it can bring forward and reveal to you. You can even invite, say, and ask, what are you here to teach me? Literally, by inviting and asking, there's a lesson there. There's a deeper purpose for this fear, for the image that you have with all that. And so now, instead of avoiding it, the idea is you just really want to allow yourself to go into it, explore it. Because right now it has power over you. That's what fear does. But when we can really begin to open up and relax into whatever that fear is, it begins to lose the power, and that's how we restore it back to ourselves. But that just takes place through the willingness, the courage to be with that. And that's where it does take courage. That's why when you talk about fear, courage or fear, it's interrelated, obviously. But really, it's not courage. It really just takes loving and accepting. But in this world, it would be called courage. So just be aware of that. If you find yourself in courage and fear and you're in a struggle, the way to relax is saying, oh, it's not about courage or bravery in facing my fears. It's about loving and accepting my fears. And that's a big key. So we don't go into a battle or a struggle with the fear, but that we can look at it and loving and accepting it. Because when we can look at it and loving and accepting, then now the loving can come forward and be revealed through the fear. And that's when the lesson will be revealed. That's how the lesson is revealed and how it comes forward. Because there's a lesson in here. See, the way Lucifer set it up, Lucifer just shows us the fear, knowing we'll go into reaction and avoid the beautiful lesson that is intended there for us. That's why if we can literally look into the eyes of fear, whether it's Lucifer directly or whether it's some other image, eventually then it'll just open up and reveal to us the lesson in there, and then that divine spark of our soul that was caught up in there, that created it in the first place, will return to us. That's how we become re-empowered, and that's how we free ourselves from all these karmas. That's just the way it works. And it's really simply a process of being able to confront it, to surrender to it, to relax and let it open. But in order for that to happen, you've got to relax and open, and that it will reflect to you. When you surrender, relax, and open, the very thing you're facing will surrender, relax, and open to you. Remember, this world's a reflection. If we're in reaction, the thing out here is going to be in reaction. Just simple. If we're open, the thing out here is going to be open. And that's up to us to create that. And so we have to do it inside of ourselves, go inside and say, okay, I surrender, I open up. And then we'll begin to see the fear surrender and open up and then revealed to us, no matter what it is. And you've got to understand, You know, one of the other acronyms I liked from the insight trainings, fear, fantasized expectations appearing real. So this image of being alone and in a wheelchair, well, unless you're actually in that space now, that's just a fantasy, but it's an expectation that you think is real, and that's the fear. So obviously it's not real, it's fantasized. And so we've got to, one, just acknowledge that and give ourselves the opportunity to get beyond the fantasy of that. And this is the way by how to do that. And then whatever Jim would like to share with that.
Well, I'm glad you're breaking free of the relationship, and it's for the right reasons. And the reason being, you don't need to live in the fear of the past. Remember, that's how the Lord of this creation controls us, is to keep us in our fear. And bringing up the awareness of how you died in another lifetime is often the reason why people live in fear in this lifetime, for fear that it could happen again. But that was a lesson learned back then. It's not yet a lesson in this lifetime. So I would say just keep moving forward and let yourself experience the aloneness if it needs to. But with it, also be aware you know you're with God, you know you're with the Holy Spirit, you know your soul, you know who you are in the world, and you are building your life in the world, however that might be. You have people around you that maybe you didn't have in the other lifetime that will support you and care about you and be there for you. All you have to do is ask. So you're in a very different situation now. And I think this is going to move quicker than you might think. You're going to get free of this and be able to move on now to what is next for you, whatever that might be. And it may be being alone, and it may be in another relationship, and it may be just being with your friends. So allow yourself to discover in an open manner, in a vulnerable way, to find out what is the real truth here for you. But remember, you've never left the heart of God, so that means you never have been alone, and you're never going to be alone, in the sense that God is right there with you all the way. And in that, Spirit, loving grace is right there supporting you every step. And so keep recognizing that, acknowledging that, calling it forward for yourself, and let yourself live this experience very different. You're not in a wheelchair, you're not alone, and you're not going to be. That's not this lifetime, that was last. All right.
There was a second little email, I think you've already spoken to it, but she added that the main topic for her is to stand up for her truth and keeping her boundaries because he overtakes her and doesn't care about even a thought. So he's much stronger than she is. But I feel like you already spoke to that. I just wanted to voice it since she wrote that in.
Yeah. If anything, you have to realize you're stronger in your own way than you might think. And this is how you're going to find your strength and be able to live in the truth and the strength of yourself in a greater way.
Those are all the signposts. I'm glad you're recognizing the signposts. And at some point you realize, you know, it's just not going to work, and make the choice to do what you're doing. And that's where really it's a wonderful freedom and taking care of yourself. That's an empowerment. Because you're no longer giving your power away to somebody like that. And that's where relationships serve us well in these types of regards. As far as the challenging lessons, for sure. What?
No, I think it's great. I mean, somebody getting their freedom is just wonderful for me.
For them too.
For them too, but to me, for me too. I love seeing people getting their freedom and liberation.
Okay, next one.
Okay?
Dear Jim and Brian, while this morning's dream is short and seems naturally related to my past week's challenging work situation, which I have definitely been caught up in, I always learn that there is a deeper meaning. In my dream, I have a frustrating and difficult time creating a spreadsheet report by keeping it on one page because it keeps going onto a second page. Then I'm anxiously about to attend a meeting online and then find out I'm 3 hours late and just become so frustrated. Thank you both, and to Kelsey and the staff who I appreciate so much. Sending much love.
So wait a minute, was there a question in any of this?
If there's a deeper meaning to that dream, I think this person would like some feedback.
I just love the dream. It's funny to me. I just think of that spreadsheets and late to meetings. That sounds like my world. I mean, I do with spreadsheets and meetings, so that's why I'm laughing. So, well, there's always some type of learning involved, and so if I were to look at just those two things. I'll start with the last one first about being late to the meeting. Well, when you're late to meetings, what does it stir within you? If I were to ask you that right now, that'll let you know what you're working with as far as in regards to that type of stuff. And the other part, as far as something not working the way you wanted to, so we're dealing with control. What are you trying to protect, defend, and control when things aren't going your way, your expectations? Then what do you do with that? Maybe try the RAIN acronym we heard today, or try the cry or laugh, just any of it. And that's, to me, when I look at dreams as giving us feedback out of our unconscious to support us in the learning about ourselves, but then what we can do with that is what's important. And that's why I'm really talking more about that than what does it actually mean. I'm trying to encourage you to really look at what the meaning is for you, and then to work with that to get the value on how to handle that. So obviously I could go into, well, what does it bring up when you're late for meetings? What does that stir inside of you? And the same thing with not getting a spreadsheet to go the way you want. What does it stir up inside of you? And so I am asking you those. So you can take that, if you want to journal it, start writing that down. I'm not going to go into it right now. I want you to take this literally as homework of the questions I just put out with you, to start writing your journal, you know, what this stirs inside of you, because inside of there, then you can turn it into a lesson plan, a homework that'll lead you to a wonderful place. Because more than likely, this is something that is a common occurrence in your life, dealing not just with spreadsheets, but other things as well as what you feel with being late to things. And it may be, especially if it's something consistent you find happening regularly in your life, the dream's trying to reveal to you something for you to work with so that you can start learning the lesson. That's why we have the dreams, to help us learn the lessons in there. Do you want to add something?
No, that's really put very well. That's very clear. Thank you.
So this is one of those ones I would say, like the other one, get back to us. Take the homework assignment, work with the homework assignment, and let us know how it goes. Because that's a good one.
That's very good.
For real,
Yeah.
that's a good one. Have fun with it, really. This is a good, like if we did a weekend workshop or retreat, a good homework assignment to do a journaling process or something with. This is a really good one because it's very practical, but obviously what the outer reflects, there's something really good internally there to work with.
Okay. This one's long, so bear with me. Demonstrating how to live as an initiate inwardly and walk through the physical. Dearest Jim, Brian, and Kelsey, my depth of gratitude for your realness and sharing your own processes with the human side of moving through this world and completing and loving it all. As souls and teachers on the path of liberation, I stand in awe of the depth of your sharing. Maybe it was just my process, but for all these years, to me, most of your sharing has really been about how to do the inner. Then you get to live in love, joy, and peace all the time. Laugh out loud. That's what I heard, not that it was real or what you were communicating. That you as teachers were above us and were somehow free of this world while you're still in this world. I don't know how I created that, but it's been a crucial part for me to let go and surrender that lately. I guess I'm finally really starting to accept this world and the world of spirit in whole new ways. Within the last couple of years, last year especially, with all the changes in ILM, you're really showing us how to do it in the outer as well, how to walk through the world pulling at you or us. The depth of your sharing vulnerably in the moment as you are still learning is so inspiring. Yesterday, I did the Friday night and Saturday of the European Initiate Retreat. Even in a recording, the Holy Spirit is so present. Much of what you shared today, Brian, was also shared there, although you took it to the next step today. It's so beautiful to watch your process of confession, to actually surrender and move to an even deeper level of inner communication with your soul. I couldn't stay present and kept fading in and out in my vision as you were talking today. I was not able to take it all in, but will listen many more times. I know you shared what I need next. I heard part of it as a deeper inner communication, surrender, and self-responsibility. At the last laugh class, Spirit brought forward through Kelsey 2 questions to ask myself inside when my control, judgment, fears come up. They have profoundly changed my inner and outer life in close relationships at work and partnership at home almost instantaneously. They are 2 things that I'm adding to my bag of tricks. First question, not what would Jesus do, but what would my soul do for its liberation? That immediate answer that comes to me is anything. When I feel the fear come up of not wanting to talk to someone and not wanting to share my truth, when I ask inside, this strength comes into me knowing that this is really about to thine own self be true. My liberation has to do with me being true to myself, to my soul, putting my soul first and taking care of myself first over others. I don't know about anyone else, but I've done a lot of caretaking this lifetime that did not serve my soul. What's really funny is in my partnership, as I shared several things that were shaking me, weren't working for me, weren't taking care of me, that I really needed to come present with for me. As I shared more honestly from a place of caring for myself, from the depth of my soul for its liberation, it opened this doorway. We shared more honestly and openly there. We shared more honestly and openly there became this deeper level of caring for ourselves and each other. As I questioned what he meant, I came to realize it was not at all what I thought. I can't even describe it. There were like these poof, poof and stuff that had held so much energy was just gone. There was a part of me that would even go unconscious as I was talking and want to stop sharing, but I kept asking, what would my soul do for its liberation? That kept re-empowering me to me moving forward and not let fear shut me down. Question 2, when I start feeling myself frustrated or judging or thinking what I want to tell them to do, or feeling that I need to control something outside myself, just stop and ask, what do I need to do to take care of me right now? More poof, poof, gone experience at work. Seems so simple yet so profound. Taught me that it's really all going on inside of me because the other person didn't do anything different at all. All I did was change how I was going to take care of me inside and out in the moment. Take action instead of reaction. The dad was playing with the kids and they were totally out of control and he doesn't know how to manage them. The old me would have stayed there being frustrated, start judging him, etc. Then I asked the question inside, what do I need to do to take care of me right now? What I got was to let him know I was going upstairs to run a bath, and whenever he was ready, he can bring them up. Poof, frustration disappeared, judgment disappeared. I felt empowered instead of powerless. I felt like a loving soul and not a victim of circumstances. I relaxed and had one of the easiest nights of my life at work. I physically felt so light and energized instead of feeling heavy and weighed down. I think this is what Brian was talking about today, about being deep inside and us working with that inner talk with our soul. As Jim has said to me, it's all about me. These two questions really do it for me for pretty much every situation. What would my soul do for its liberation? What do I need to do to take care of me in this moment? Thank you all for being such clear teachers in the most amazing ways for each of us to move forward, freer and towards our liberation this life. Thank you, thank you, thank you for the simplicity.
Thank you for the sharing. That was wonderful.
Very well articulated.
Very.
Wow. I mean, thank you for the awesome examples and details. That is like, I mean, the best stories that make it very clear, the understanding there. And the biggest one is applying it. I mean, gosh, I love it too, the simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
Taking a different action than what you would normally do can change everything. Not just changing how we think about something, but literally just taking a different action can all of a sudden now shift everything.
That's right.
But it's got to come from the right place. And boy, obviously those questions help you come from the right place. So, wow, just fantastic sharing. Thank you. That was nice. It was almost like a meditation. I was just relaxed and focused, listening the whole time.
Follow up to Rain. Thank you, Brian, for the clarification.
I do want to say one last thing before we go into that. I do want to acknowledge too, I love how the last sharing showed physical examples, how we can live practically, but do internally, and then the internal, how it affects the outer, and then how the internal state of being is different. That internal state of being is what it's all about, obviously, but it demonstrates when the internal state of being changes, the outer is going to change as well. And well, to some degree, but that's not what it's about. It's that inner And then we find new ways, try something different. Well, this is how we try something different, and also do it from a different place so we get a different result. And that's the key. And then the poof stuff, which I love, because I always do that when a karma is literally dissolved. That's literally what happens, that quick and that easy, in how you can live this pathway day to day in a practical way. And in that practical day-to-day living, you can be clearing karma just like that. That's why this was a wonderful sharing, and the examples, it just really well laid out the practicality of this. But yet, even though the inner seemed simple, which it is, which is nice how it was portrayed here, but that simplicity is literally how we move into liberation in that, and things actually dissolve that quickly and that easily as we do it. So thank you again. I just want to acknowledge, just point out some of those, that level of detail in there. Okay, thank you. Let it rain.
Thank you, Brian, for the clarification. The expectation piece was more about what usually gets in between me and God. I don't think it was about my teachers, although, to be as transparent as possible, there is usually an expectation associated with my sharing, because every time I do share, I feel vulnerable of my ego's need for validation. By the way, the acronym is from someone else, so it's not something I came up with.
Awesome, thank you for sharing.
Yeehaw.
Wait, I'm not done with the last one yet.
Oh my, okay. Sorry.
Or is that what the person said after I said that?
No, that was the next one.
No, I appreciate the acknowledgement, because I know when I do that for myself, it helps move the energy in myself, and in doing so, it gives other people permission to do the same for themselves in whatever way that's needed. And this is a nice example of that. It's a great interaction, and in doing so is a way we can learn to be more effective communicators, because if we really trust that inside of ourselves and respond to that and give it expression, then it allows our loving to move into and around us, to just create more of a space of loving and clear out all the expectations, fears, whatever's in our consciousness or those around us that are, in a sense, trying to intervene with our own. And then it gives the opportunity for everybody involved to just move to a clearer, more wonderful, loving space. And to me, that's how you take communication into communion and action. So that's really nice. Thank you for writing back and sharing. I appreciate that. Okay, yeehaw!
Yeehaw. Thank you from my full heart. When class opened in the blessings of being with you three, tears just started flowing, as I'm so grateful to have you as my loving, living teachers. Your compassion, teachings, and ability stay true to each one of us is extraordinary. I recently returned from Insight 2, a life-changing experience for me, because I am on the path of sound and light, and have been so blessed to have teachers that truly love me as soul and remind me to refocus, meditate, and believe in my essence, that I am a living, loving being that is so safe, loved, abundant, magnificent, still, and so precious. The insight process revealed to me how far I've come. It has grounded me through very profound, simple, sweet, terrifying exercises, which I realized have been grand action steps towards my freedom. I now see the absolute beauty in being vulnerable and imperfectly me. I wanted to experience my freedom as soul in a world that just doesn't know. Insight gave me this experience. I am no longer afraid of being afraid and can take responsibility and trust 100%. Wow, Lau Lau. Listen to me. Who is this chick? I am me, and it feels so good. Grateful to refocus into this truth, knowing I have a choice. I remain open and loving, surrendering, and free to be me. I am lovable and loving only because you have shown me this reflection in who you choose to be. I cry sweet tears as I write this, as it feels so good to not be afraid, to not be caught up in my own disturbances as well as others, and able to return to my loving. I actually can't believe I am saying these words, and I am. I love you three so much, and I thank you for your unconditional love and compassion for me as a soul. God bless, and Merry Christmas to all. Sharing big hugs and so much loving.
That's funny, neither one of us are saying anything.
No, it's just so peaceful.
I know, isn't that nice?
It's a wonderful statement.
Literally, that type of sharing just brings me into that inner peace and quiet. It's like I'm saying something now because I want to give an outer acknowledgement, but the truth is it just was a wonderful sharing and just brought me to that place of inner peace where it's just still and quiet. And it's a wonderful place to be. No, I'm not done yet. Are you done yet?
Yeah, it said it all. I don't have anything to add. I don't want to mess with it. It's perfect.
Well, that's not what I was talking about. I just wanted to be in that energy a little longer before we move to the next one.
Oh,
Okay, I'll still stay in the energy and we can go on to the next one. Thank you for whoever wrote that. They're awesome. It's just wonderful to hear these types of sharings. And we've had several today, so it's just fantastic. It's like the blessings like you talked about.
yeah, they're all blessings.
Yeah.
Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Kelsey, Jim, and Brian. I recently started a group coaching program after many years. I was extremely excited to do this service in the world as I've been planning it for the last 2 years. The work involves inner child work, mostly healing our past so we can learn how to give ourselves the love and care that we may have lacked growing up. It's an action of self-love, self-care, and self-gentleness. I've felt a strong movement of spirit while doing this work. A few days before my course started, I had to walk through the exact lessons I was teaching and heal at a deeper level. I've broken through new levels of self-love, which was great, but the process came with so much pain for 2 weeks straight that it scared me as I ended up extremely fatigued. I started to wonder if I should let go of my idea of going back into coaching, since this was so intense that I can't keep this emotional pace. During the classes, I've felt spirit strongly. It was an energy I've never felt before. I enjoyed giving them and felt very fulfilled. As soon as the classes were over, the energy lifted, and in the days that followed, I was back into emotional pain, crying, as more images from my past came up for me to love, accept, and forgive. As Brian shared today, I don't have much to look forward to, not from a depressed standpoint. It's mostly that when I feel that I have the pull to do something in the world, like my coaching, 2 weeks after I started, I am absolutely wiped out and I don't know if I should continue it. The enthusiasm may have faded to keep doing this in the next months. I wonder if the karma of doing this service was fulfilled in just 2 weeks, or if I'm just afraid to keep healing my past further. How do I do service while being able to care for myself? Thank you.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
To me, there's no clear answer with this because it's one of a ever unfolding experiential process. I'm going to start first addressing the part that gets like really exhausted afterwards and the emotional pain as you described. To me, when you go through that type of a process, it's often because you have something personally invested in the a level of expectation. And it's important to look at that. It's one thing to be a service, but then we have to look at our personal level of what are the expectations we have? What are we looking at getting out of it? What is our intention behind it all? And there, somewhere behind in those ideas, like I was saying, and maybe even a few more, is where you, as you explore this, you'll hopefully start to get more of the clarity of what's really causing the emotional pain and the exhaustion afterwards. Yes, there's going to be always some level of tiredness or whatever, just like when we do the long days like this. Most times we get pretty tired. Sometimes we get energized. But over time, doing it long enough, I have found myself getting more and more neutral with things. And so it doesn't have the same effect on me like what you're saying. In the beginning years, I definitely had more of that with whatever expectation I had running. But then over time, it just starts to get more neutral. And I find my way through it to see and learn more about that neutrality of spirit and service and about my own personal process in it all. And it's important to realize that there's an action of spirit present, but there's also always our own personal part and our own personal levels and lessons that never stop. And so to me, it's called do both. Look at this, do the service, but then also remember that you're a part of the service. You're doing a service because it's also serving you personally. And that personal part is to look at your lessons and to, keep growing and learning and putting to practice. Just like you said, as soon as you did this, it really brought forward for you to look at that. Well, guess what? Same thing happens here. Everything we share about is from our personal experience. And that which we share that comes out of that is because as we've gone through it is where we have learned our lessons and we continue to. That's why we share that, just like you heard today, several people acknowledge that is the process. So to me, it's not about should you do this and continue or not. I don't think there's any right or wrong, because the thing is, whatever lessons you're meant to learn, you're going to have those come forward regardless of what you do. So whether it's your group coaching things or whether it's a different avenue, different expression, you're still going to have the lessons you need to learn in your life one way or another. And that's part of your journey of discovery, to see, what expression you do in the world that is going to give you that opportunity. And sometimes it is, yep, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do something else. And other times it is, well, no, I'm going to keep moving forward on this path. But as I move forward, I'm going to really learn and discover how I can continue to keep doing, literally in this case, the theme of what you're saying, to heal your past, to nurture self-care, self-love. If I heard it all, remember it correctly. So I would say practice what you're preaching, in other words. And in that, you can discover, like, hey, maybe I spread the sessions further apart. Maybe I give myself more time. Maybe I give other people more time. Maybe I only do shorter segments and take longer breaks between the segments. Like if you do it in, like here's a 4 or 8 week course, and then I stop for a month or two, and then I do another 4 or 8 week. You know what I'm saying? You find in your own self-care, self-love, self-nurturing process how to spread things out and so that it works for you as well as the other people that you're working with. Just like you've seen us do over the years. I mean, heck, Jim used to do Tuesday nights every week, but then took long summers and did, whatever here or there. We've adjusted as we've gone where we're like once a month now, but then we do all the areas and we do this and that. And we're constantly adjusting our schedules pretty much every year, maybe not in major ways, but minor ways to say the least, because as we're continuing to learn to grow, to take care of ourselves, to be of service, to help take care of others, we're making those adjustments all along, but we're not stopping by any means. If anything, we're growing deeper into our actions of service the longer we do this. And we just make the adjustments as we go along. And so maybe that's all you need to do is find how to make those adjustments, but also realize in doing the service, it's going to bring forward that which is for you to learn and grow. And so I would say a lot of, though, to begin with, is to look at even your expectations you have on yourself and on the others in the program you're doing, because I would say, based on hearing what you shared, that you've definitely got a lot of emotional expectation wrapped up in there that I think is what's causing a lot of the emotional pain and the exhaustion. So I would start there as a starting place after everything I just said. And also whatever else is coming up in your awareness just from listening to me talk right now, and whatever Jim has to share as well. And I guess I'll turn it over to Jim right now and see if anything else shows up.
Well, what you're going through is just a natural unfoldment. And you're just unfolding into this action that you're doing. It is an action of service, even if you're making money off of it in the action. There's still a service that's taking place with people. And that energy moving through you is going to bring up certain things that you need to be aware of in your own life and learn from, in the process that these people are also having things brought up and they're learning. You're going to walk with them through it all. But it's also a fact that if you do it through the means you're doing right now, or you go to work for somebody and do work somewhere else, you're still going to have the lessons coming up, just differently. It's going to be the same, but I think you're going to find a lot more joy and gratitude and awakening in what you're doing here than if you did something else out in the world other than what you're doing. So follow the energy. It's pulled you into this for a reason. I wouldn't walk away from it, because your soul is wanting you to do this for you and for them as well, but it's mainly for you. So do it, enjoy it, and learn from it, and take care of yourself in the process. Don't hurt yourself, but at the same time, be willing to stretch yourself so that you can really keep growing. That's
cool. Nice.
Spiraling.
Yeehaw.
Recently, I've had 2 experiences where I'm spiraling up.
Good. That's why I did a yeehaw.
Turning to the right and up. Recently, I was standing naked at the top stairs of clarity, understanding, wisdom, and truth. I just started spinning to the right slowly and gently, and then started being raised up while continuing to spiral. Today, when you were guiding us into meditation this afternoon, as I looked up, I saw a silver pole, and I was spiraling around to the right as I was going up the pole. I've been pulled up, but now there's a spiraling in more than one experience. Is there something significantly different from being spiraled and raised versus just raised up? Much gratitude and loving. Happy holidays.
It's really all the same action. It's just lifting up, raising up. The spiraling is an action that does take place for the consciousness as it's beginning to move upward. We spiral down on the outer edge of the spiral, and we spiral up on the inner side of the spiral. So you're moving now in the inner upward part of the phase of movement and awakening. And so don't try to figure out what is this, what is that. Just go with the flow, go with the movement, however it unfolds for you, and know that if you're going up, you're going in the right direction, and just enjoy it and awaken into it and see what it might hold for you as far as awareness is.
So I have a question for you. So with the spiraling, and they mention as like a pole, like a North Pole, South Pole, and in this creation, obviously the polarity. So if they're spiraling up a pole, would that make them a pole dancer?
She's not dancing, she's just spiraling up. Different action.
Oh, I just needed that for myself.
I
Got a
guess
whole new image of this pathway. This pathway is one of the pole dancers. Like straight and narrow going up the pole, spiraling.
well, that's what Rumi did.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking the whole time when I said spiraling. I'm just thinking of Rumi in the twirling cave going through the etheric into the soul.
Yeah.
That's literally actually been called the Rukmini Canal through the etheric level, well, part of the etheric level that's spinning like that. And the jokes around the pole, of course, around polarity. Wow, my bad humor is back. I like my bad humor. That was funny. You're laughing. That must have been a good joke.
Welcome to the one-man show.
Most people laugh just because I'm laughing at my own jokes, is what I hear.
That's true. That's true.
Oh, it works for me.
Well, the beauty is that you're moving upward, and the spiraling means that the soul is truly awakening energetically to go higher and gain greater awareness and experience. So just relax into it and appreciate it all.
Thank you, I will.
I guess that's it.
Nope, I'm just getting started.
Next.
No, let's linger on this one for a little bit. It took me out of my inner peace to now spiraling up the pole. Let me get my whirling dervish pole dance on. Okay, you better move on to what's next, otherwise Jim's gonna get a weirdly weird, crinkly face.
I just want to honor their spiritual experience. I don't want to make a joke of it.
But I am, in my own way.
Okay.
Remember the last time this happened?
Uh-huh.
People felt offended, this and that, and then later it turned out it was a wonderful thing for what the actual person was going through. Remember that?
Yeah.
One of these days you'll learn to trust me after all these years.
What are these days?
Yeah, I don't know about this life, the rate it's going now. If you haven't got that in 22, 23 years, I'm not sure.
Read the
Kelsey's
next one.
just looking away now like, okay.
Read the next one. Read over him.
I would, Jim, if there was, but this is the end of class. So I'm just letting you guys have your process.
Well, there you go.
For everyone
Maybe-
to witness.
Maybe that's why I'm having fun, just letting go of all the energy.
Very good.
This is it.
This is
This
it.
is it. Isn't there
Well,
a
thank
song?
you all very much, because this was
This is it.
a wonderful sharing
Well,
and
thank you.
questions, because it was all based on spirit, inner growth, inner movement, inner awakening. And that was a very powerful session.
And a little bit of pole dancing.
Brian just wants to have a pole dancing experience.
In your mind, it is. That's your mind, not your soul.
Let's see, is it the North and South Pole, or is it the positive and negative?
It wasn't either, because they're going off to the right and up. They're going above it.
So that would be to the northwest.
There is no west or north in spirit. It's just upward.
Beyond pole dancing.
That's right.
Kelsey's shaking her head at me.
I guess that's all, folks.
Kelsey's tired.
I am too. That's why it's more fun. I'm a little delirious.
I
It's
like
more
your
hilarious.
joy. Your joy is beautiful. I'm just in peace. It's a very peaceful
Oh,
Q&A
yeah.
from start to finish.
It was.
It's just beautiful.
And I love the sharings.
Mhm.
That was great.
I agree.
Well, thank you all very much.
No, we're not wrapping up yet. We got
Okay.
10 minutes.
Brian,
You've
Jim
got
and
10
I,
minutes.
Jim and I are grateful, and we're gonna say goodbye.
We're going to say thank you
All
all.
right.
Loving.
We'll
great-
see you later. I'm going to hang out for a little while.
Okay.
Till Kelsey just pushes the button. And
Yeah. Or Tanya, she's got the power. She's got the power.
That she does.
oh my gosh, that was fun. Leave them laughing, or at least myself. I'm over there. Oh, that was fun. Thank you, everybody. It was great to go from where I started to here.
True. True. Where you started, I was concerned.
I know, I was at the South Pole. Now I'm at the top of the North Pole and heading west or east.
See what you all did for Brian, your service? You brought him up
Yeah,
in joy.
you did.
It always does.
Yeah.
That's why I like it.
It's
You know how it
awesome.
works now. Accumulate, accumulate, accumulate the karmas. Do a class, let the Holy Spirit lift it all. Yay! Then we go back out, accumulate, accumulate, accumulate some karma. Sounds like we got a chant or a song there. Woo! Give it all away. Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays, and New Year.
And we'll see you next time
Amen.
in Jim and Brian's house.
Yeah.
I know.
Something
my
new and
goodness.
different
Yeah.
Yep.
coming up.
Coming up.
New episode.
Take the show on the road.
It's the beginning.
Nothing like newness.
All righty.
Well, again, thank you all very much, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And may you share it with others if you can, and if not, share it with God. He loves turkey too.
And a good pole dance.
I'll let that be between you and God. I have no idea.
Kelsey's laughing.